"50 years ago today, that theme song was heard for the very first time. This is WGTC Radio, the official podcast of entertainment website We Got This Covered, and we are here to celebrate 50 years of that awesome show.
Yes.
I am Jonathan Lack.
And I am, always, Sean Chapman.
And we are Doctor Who fans.
Yes.
Which makes this a pretty exciting day.
Yes, because it's my birthday. You know,
it is your birthday. Happy birthday, Sean.
Thank you.
You are 21.
Yes.
The Doctor is 50. Well, the Doctor is like 1,000. Doctor.
But we don't talk about the Doctor's age. That is a big can of worms to open up how old the Doctor is.
Maybe we'll talk about that later in the show.
Maybe. I don't
know. Who knows? All right. Sean, it's here, the day of the Doctor, 50th anniversary.
Oh, man.
There's also an episode named that.
Yes.
It's going to be airing today. We are recording this before that episode. We will talk about it sometime, maybe in a couple days, maybe after Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
We'll see. Really, we just wanted to record a special episode celebrating Doctor Who.
Yeah, because it's been a long time since we talked about Doctor Who on this podcast, you know?
Like 2 months.
Yeah, like the time was that this was just a Doctor Who podcast, basically, you know? And then, like, video game consoles came out and bullshit happened, and we started moving away from what's truly important in life, which is just Doctor Who, right?
Right. Well, but it's here, 50 years. How amazing is that? That there can be a show that is 50 years on, and not only that, but can inspire such intense levels of fan interest and love.
I mean, it's one of the reasons why I love Doctor Who as much as I do, is because of how long it is. Like, it makes it so unique, and especially with, like, the how that functions with the character of the Doctor himself, it makes the show so much fun to watch, because there's so much history behind it, and you have so much. It's kind of like with a video game. It's like you have so much connection to it just through the sheer amount of time you spent with it, that it's amazing. And especially for a show like this, you know, a sci-fi, like, fictional TV show to last this long, that's fucking crazy.
It is. And, you know, it's funny you were saying that about length. Doctor Who has been on so long, even the revived series is getting to a point where that history exists if you just take it as the 3 Doctors so far.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah, like the Revive series is like a pretty long-running TV show at this point.
We're getting on to the
things.
We are getting on to the 4th Doctor of the modern series. We are getting on to the Tom Baker era of the modern series. How crazy is that? I wonder
if Peter Capaldi's going to be on the show for 7 years. That'd be crazy.
He would be like 63 or 4 when he left.
Man.
Yeah. So, you know, this is a big year for Doctor Who. We had, you know, our weird, awkward half season at the beginning.
Yeah, we fucking did.
Yeah, you know, we had Alien sucking on Diana Rigg's nipple, which was really the highlight of Doctor Who this year.
Maybe that's just the highlight of Doctor Who at some point.
Right.
And all those 50 years leading up to that one moment.
Right. We have, you know, a new Doctor coming at the end of the year. We've got one of the best Doctors ever leaving. We've got a 50th anniversary special in which multiple Doctors will be teaming up. It's a good year to be a Doctor Who fan, and it's a good year to look back. So, Sean, let me throw it to you first. Okay. How did you become a Doctor Who fan?
Okay, that's kind of a complex question, because, like, really, I remember I didn't realize what show it was until I later, like, started watching it when I was in high school. But after watching the early stuff in high school, I realized that I had seen, when I was much younger on TV, probably was like on PBS or fucking something, like some 4th Doctor stuff. And definitely Tomb of the Cybermen, because when I got to Tomb of the Cybermen, I specifically remembered seeing those scenes before when I was a lot younger. That, like, I had no idea that was that show, you know, like.
Right.
But when I like really started watching Doctor Who was in high school, and I had heard about it some, and people were talking about it, and obviously this was like the revived show. And I was like, oh, this sounds kind of cool. And then I was in a phase where I was watching a lot of TV shows, because that's when, like, Netflix was big, so you would just, like, or at least I would just binge watch, like, the X-Files or something over the course of 3 or 4 months and watch that entire show, which is a horrible but amazing way to consume entertainment. And I was looking for something new. I was looking into the Doctor Who stuff, and I saw that the first episode was made on my birthday, November 23rd, in 1963. And so that was just that's just kind of weird. It's on my birthday. And then, holy shit, this show first came out in 1963, and then I saw it's like there are 10 Doctors, and when I was getting in, like, the 11th Doctor was just about to come in. I think it was, like, more or less right after the 10th Doctor left, probably. And I was like, okay, well, I guess I'll watch this show. And so sane people saw that and was like, well, maybe at some point I'll watch some of the older stuff. But clearly, in 2005, they made this revived show with the 9th and 10th Doctors, and I'll just pick up there, And I was like, fuck that shit. This show started in 1963. I'm going to fucking start in 1963. So I went online and found an Unearthly Child and started watching that. And then that episode segued into an episode about caveman politics.
It's so amazing.
And I was hooked because I couldn't fucking believe what I was seeing about this crazy, like, political philosophy debate being posed, like, classically among these two caveman figures. It was like taking a philosophy class. Like, if I was teaching philosophy, I'd fucking show that episode, But yeah, so I started watching that.
Sean, what class would you be teaching in which you would not show a Doctor Who episode?
That's a good point. Like, there are so many Doctor Who episodes that there's one for fucking everything, you know? But yeah, and then I started watching the next episode, which is the Daleks, and that's fucking awesome, because then the Daleks come in, and they're really cool. And then I saw the next episode, and the next episode, and the next, and then I just...
And 798
Yeah, and then a year later, I was like, okay, I'm all caught up. So, that's how it happened for me. How did it happen for you, Jonathan?
Well, it's kind of funny, because I started watching Doctor Who shortly before you did, but I didn't go in as hardcore.
Yeah, because you're a pussy.
No, even then, there was a lot to, that was 4 or 5 years of TV to catch up on. And so, no, this was, I believe, late 2009 or early 2010. I don't think David Tennant had left yet. I knew Doctor Who was something I wanted to watch, because I'd heard about it a lot. It was a big deal. David Tennant, people loved this guy. He was about to leave. We were about to get a new actor. I didn't fully understand what regeneration was. I feel like you don't until you see a regeneration. On Doctor Who, which is one of the great things about that first season of the revived show in terms of getting newcomers on board. But yeah, so I wanted to watch this new show. I knew they were going to be starting a new kind of saga for the show soon with this new actor. So I'm like, well, let's look at it. And then I also saw, oh, holy shit, this started in 1963.
Yeah.
And there's no easy way to see any of this.
No, that was... There were a lot of trials and tribulations in trying to access a lot of that older stuff,
Yeah, and I should say there was no hugely easy way to see the Revived series at the time, because it was not on Netflix yet, and the DVDs were like $100 fucking bucks a piece, and still are. But anyway, I wound up seeing Rose, the first episode of the Revived series, and, here's the thing, I don't think I was hooked on Doctor Who until an episode we will talk about at length later called Dalek.
Yeah.
That's like the 7th or 6th episode of Series 1. But you look at Rose, first episode of the Revived series, what Russell T Davies, and for me particularly in that episode, what Christopher Eccleston does. And you look at that character, and you're seeing it from Rose's point of view. And Rose is used very well in that first season. No matter what complaints we have about her later.
Yeah, that's definitely true.
Yeah, good entry point character, and you are, like Rose, hooked on the mystery of who this guy is. And I think that's such an audacious step for the Revived series to say, we have 26 seasons of history.
Yeah.
But we're not going to introduce this. We're going to keep that continuity, but at the same time, we're not going to jump into the deep end of it. We're going to make the Doctor kind of mysterious again. We're going to kind of take everything back a step. We're going to start out in a way where newcomers are going to be really engaged in this too. Or longtime fans are going to be engaged in this too. But for newcomers, it's going to be like, discovering all this for the first time. And it really was. And those first couple episodes, even though I think there are some rough patches, I'm not a big Slitheen fan.
Yeah.
But
most people aren't. I hope most people aren't. I don't know.
Russell T Davies is, because he brought them back immediately.
Yeah, that's... Fucking Jesus.
But Christopher Eccleston is so good, and I think Billy Piper is so good early on, that I wound up being hooked, and it was just a case of, I think it took me like 2 months to marathon those 4 seasons, and then I don't think I caught up right in time for David Tennant, for David Tennant's last episode, but I know that box set of his specials came out like a week or two after his regeneration, and I bought that immediately and watched that. So I was there ready for day one when Matt Smith came in. But
like when I was all caught up, it's like I had caught up to where Matt Smith was by the time sort of like Christmas, and then I got the Matt Smith like season 5 box set.
Yeah,
watched all of that, and then like the Christmas Carol was the first like new episode of Doctor Who I ever watched. Right. So that's like where I caught up.
We both came in with good new episodes then.
Yeah.
Me, The 11th Hour, you, A Christmas Carol.
Yeah.
Those are 2 good episodes.
Yeah, they are.
So yes, but, and I've sampled Classic Who since then, and it's good to have Sean as a guide, because Sean sat down and watched all 700.
Yeah, because I'm like a filter, because
Yeah.
I fucking love Doctor Who, but there is a lot of bullshit. Like, there is a lot, especially, you will go in more in depth later, but there's like certain sections not great of Doctor Who.
Right.
But the thing about Doctor Who that's great, that is, it doesn't even matter if there's a bad episode to me, because it's like, the show itself and like the character of the Doctor and that universe and like the TARDIS and all that just weird shit and the Time Lords and regeneration is so fucking magical that it's, even if it's a bad episode, I don't care, I'll watch it, because it's there's something about that universe that is, like I said, it's magical in a way that like no other show can even do, because part of what makes it magical is like to me the long history of it. And even beyond that, it's like, just watching an Unearthly Child, or for you, Rose, like I imagine just like seeing the TARDIS and like understanding the TARDIS for the first time, of like, it is this thing that is bigger on the inside that travels anywhere in time and space. That's cool enough. The key to the TARDIS is the fact that it looks like a fucking police box.
Absolutely, because we all have that moment. The characters on the show and the people who watch it, where we say it's bigger on the fucking inside. We've all had that moment, right? Because I did not start watching Doctor Who knowing that about the TARDIS.
Yeah, neither did I. I had no fucking clue. And then it's just like, the fact that it's a blue fucking police box is so amazing. Like, if the TARDIS was not like that, I do not think the show would have survived. Like, I'm totally serious. Like, the TARDIS being a blue police box, that is like the defining thing of that fucking show. That tells you everything you need to know about the show.
Yes. It is that sort of, Douglas Adams-esque kind of science fiction concept. Conceit. And I say Douglas Adams-esque, this is predating Douglas Adams, and he would be inspired by it and then come to work on the show. That's how long Doctor Who has been around.
Exactly, right? Like, fucking, that's the same thing with Neil Gaiman. Like, he came on, like, when he was a kid, would have watched Doctor Who, and now he's written, like, 2 of the best episodes of the new series, so...
Yes. So, it's so great. And, I think, even taking, qualitatively out of the equation, because I don't know if I would say Doctor Who is the best show I've ever seen. I think there's, it's hard to compare because it's so different. But there's nothing else like Doctor Who. And I think that's the thing you have to say, and that I think is objectively true. There's just nothing else like it.
Yes.
And it provides pleasures that I think are completely unique. And, here's the thing. I'm a big time travel fan. That's just one of my favorite story conceits ever. I love time travel stories, and that's why I came to Doctor Who. I stayed with Doctor Who because of how it uses time travel, and it uses it in ways nothing else does. And it doesn't matter who's writing it. Robert Holmes uses time travel very differently than Stephen Moffat does. But both of them use it in a uniquely Doctor Who way. And... as combined with everything you said about the Doctor and the TARDIS and regeneration and all these things, it's just it's something magical. It's a world unto itself. Kudos to everyone who's worked on the Revive series for keeping that legacy alive so strongly that we can come to year 50 and there's all these new fans who are so excited.
Yeah, and we can have a fucking 50th anniversary special, and then we can move on to the 12th/13th Doctor, or however the fuck I'm going to personally deal with this crisis that they've heaved upon me.
Yes, you're gonna have to go meditate on a mountain for 12 days.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's like what the 6th Doctor says at the beginning of the Twin Dilemma. It's like, I just have to go become a hermit for years and years and years. I have to meditate, and then I will figure it out.
Quoting your favorite episode.
Yes, exactly. The Twin Dilemma, best episode of Doctor Who ever, without a doubt. The best fucking introduction to a Doctor. There's no better episode than the Twin Dilemma.
This is sarcasm, kids. We're going to talk about that later.
Yeah.
All right. So, Sean, anything else to say introductory-wise before we move into one of our first topics here?
Watch Doctor Who. It's really fucking good.
Yeah, if you've never seen it, obviously now is a good time to... I probably wouldn't come in on the 50th special, but you could go back on day 5th, on November 23rd and watch An Unearthly Child. You could watch Rose.
Yeah.
You could watch The Twin Dilemma if you want.
Don't. That's not.
You won't
yes,
get hooked.
no, seriously, don't. If the first episode of Doctor Who you see is The Twin Dilemma, you will never watch another episode of Doctor Who ever, fucking ever. I wouldn't have. That would have been disastrous. That is not a good episode. This just not a good anything. There's just nothing good about it.
Tomb of the Cybermen.
Yes.
Okay.
Just start watching that. Yeah.
All right. Sean, where I want to start this discussion is let's talk about the core of Doctor Who, the Doctor himself. Mm-hmm. He has had 11 faces so far. Let's talk about them.
Okay.
First Doctor, William Hartnell.
Yes.
Different kind of Doctor.
Yes, because this was... one of the things you need to know about Doctor Who is that they obviously, when the show started, had no fucking clue what it was going to be. Like Time Lords were not even named until the second Doctor's last story, the War Games. So, that whole side of Doctor Who mythos didn't come in until, 8 years into the show. So...
Which is so crazy.
Yeah, exactly.
The show goes 8 years, and one of its most famous elements doesn't come in until then.
Yeah. So with the first Doctor, he is so different because he is a cantankerous, old, Kaji fucking bastard in the best way possible.
I love that description.
Who he just, and there's one of the things I love about the first Doctor stuff is that there's this really powerful family dynamic because he kidnaps his first set of companions, basically, because he's sitting in this fucking junkyard with his police box, and Susan, his granddaughter, has inadvertently had some teachers come over to investigate, and Ian and Barbara go inside of the TARDIS, are fucking flabbergasted, and then the Doctor just dematerializes and goes to 10,000 BC, and that is how the first group of companions shows up, is the Doctor just gets kind of mad, and he just leaves with them on the ship.
If they can somehow make that Peter Capaldi's origin story too for the 12th Doctor, I would love that.
Yeah.
Clara's family comes on and he just kidnaps all of them.
It's fuck it. You people are pissing me off. I'm just going to go. I'm just going to dematerialize now.
The dynamics between William Hartnell and that group in Unearthly Child, and particularly in the Daleks and some of that stuff that I've seen, is so good.
Yeah,
because it's so fraught with tension in some ways.
Yeah, it's one of the the first Doctor's era is still, I think, one of the best of the whole show, which is really cool. If the first Doctor's era was not as good as it is, I would have never gotten hooked on the show. I got hooked watching the first Doctor stuff. That's how good it is to me. All classic Doctor Who certainly all has its problems, particularly in pacing, is really rough. That's just anything you watch that's made from TV, fucking 50 years ago, you're going to run into those issues. But the character dynamics that shines through is so powerful that it never mattered to me. And then also with the first Doctor, his era showed a huge amount of character development for the Doctor as a character, where you would see him slowly turning into sort of the character that the Doctor would be, and that Patrick Troughton would then take the torch and fully form into what we would really think of as the Doctor. But the first Doctor starts off, completely and utterly elitist, because he's this some hundreds of years old alien dude who thinks he knows everything, even though the Doctor does not ever know everything. And he always sort of flaunts that and uses his position of power to sort of hold that above Ian's head particularly. But then as the show goes on, and the Doctor has to make tough decisions like letting Susan stay on Earth because he knows that she should not be traveling with him anymore, and then watching Ian and Barbara finally being able to return back home, because most of the first 2 seasons, the story conceit is more or less the Doctor trying to get Ian and Barbara back to their time, because the TARDIS never goes where the Doctor wants the TARDIS to go.
Right.
So eventually, when Ian and Barbara go back to their own time, in the time chase, that is a hugely critical moment in the history of the show, where that's where you get the full first cast change, because it's other than the Doctor, the full first companion shift, where now you have Stephen and Vicky on the show, and they have a completely different dynamic, but you see how much the Doctor has changed, because the Doctor warms up to those characters so quickly and treats those characters so differently than he did with Ian and Barbara and Susan, that it's once you get to time chase and you see that character shift, that's even before the regeneration, that's how you see how this show can grow, because the Doctor is such a powerful character, and it is such a really dynamic character, that when the companions shift around him, you all of a sudden have this great insight into who the Doctor is as a person, I feel.
Absolutely. So we've touched upon a couple of them, but the First Doctor companions.
Yeah.
Who are they? Who are they all good? Who do we love?
I mean, yeah.
I have not seen the ones past Ian and Barbara.
Yeah. I mean, Ian, Barbara, and Susan in the First Doctor are one of the strongest companion sets of the whole show, in my opinion. And so none of the other ones are quite to that level. But you get Vicky is the next one to come on after Susan leaves, and she's pretty good. But she's basically just like Susan, but she is like a kind of like future girl. And then you get Steven is the next one, who Steven is basically just Ian. Like, they don't have
male
like,
lead that they can
have.
Yeah,
and who's the sort of dynamic male action lead who can like be the dude who punches people, because the Doctor can't really do that.
Well, and maybe that's something to mention, is that the Doctor is very much an action lead now.
Yeah, that's true.
And he has, and that happened in the classic series itself. Mm-hmm. But, for the First Doctor, they had to have a secondary male lead who could do the punching.
Yeah, and really, and that's what I fucking love Ian. Ian is one of the best companions the show has ever had, because he was kind of the main character of the show in a lot of ways, because he was the dude who had to do everything, because the Doctor is really old. Like, he just is not physically capable of doing stuff like fucking fighting in a gladiatorial arena in Aztec times, Like, it's fucking awesome. Ian is one of the biggest fucking badasses the show has ever seen. Like, that dude could take care of himself. Like, I don't know. He's a science teacher, so I don't know how he knows, like, kung fu and shit when he fights Aztec people, but he fucking does. Don't fuck with Ian.
He picked it up along the way. We don't see everything he does with the Doctor.
True. Yeah. Ian Chesterton is a badass motherfucker. But yeah, then like, you get Vicky and Steven, and then after that, even my memory kind of gets a little... Because it's like... Because this is the section of the show where most of the First Doctor stuff is lost, so like a lot of those companions don't have a strong identity to me. But you have like Dodo. Dodo really fucking sucks. She's like this 60s, like super stereotypical 60s like teenage girl, like sort of like counterculture, and she's really annoying. She's really bad. And then after, you get Katarina, who's kind of a half companion, where she shows up. She's like from Troy, basically, but she dies in like 3 episodes later. So so Katarina is like half the first companion to have died, but I don't fucking count her as a companion because it's fucking Katarina. Who cares? But she gets fucking shot into space. Like, that's how she dies. And she gets stuck into an airlock and launched into space in the Daleks' master plan. It's pretty dark.
I'm trying to imagine Doctor Who ever doing that now. Like Clara just getting launched out into space. Would be.
It's a pretty, especially for like that time. It's a really dark scene. Like most of that's like, I'm pretty sure that section does not actually really exist other than like stills and stuff. But even just watching it with stills and the audio, it's super fucking dark. Because Katarina is like this 16-year-old Trojan handmaiden who just inadvertently got stuck onto the TARDIS, and I'm pretty sure the Doctor dematerializes without realizing she was on the TARDIS in the first place.
That's even worse!
Yeah, so, yeah, that happens. And then Steven leaves at some point, I don't fucking remember, and then Ben and Polly come on, and they are the transition companions, and they're not particularly remarkable in any way. Like, none of the other First Doctor companions at all get even close to the level of Ian, Barbara, and Susan as far as that family dynamic went.
Well, and it would be tough to recreate.
Yeah, that's definitely true. I mean, and it's really obvious that they tried to, because the other characters that come on really feel like they tried to fit into those specific character molds in really awkward ways.
But, we have a full-sail reinvention, though. When the First Doctor gets sold, he just collapses.
Yes.
There's more to it than that.
Yes, yeah. It's like, I think it's radiation poisoning is the first time.
Really? Radiation poisoning killed the Doctor?
Yeah. That's
no way.
And the 10th planet, when he's fighting the Cybermen for the first time, and the fucking Cybermen of the 10th planet are cool. Because it's like, how they talk is they just, the actor just opens his mouth, and then like someone else like dubs this like really weird robot voice over it. So it's really unsettling, because it's like they just have this gaping mouth open, but then like these really complex like proper speech comes out. It's really fucked up.
I think this week, in fact, the 10th Planet just came out on DVD with a reconstruction animated of episode 4.
Yeah, because episode 4 is the only one of the 10th Planet that no longer exists.
Which fucking sucks. That's just weird.
Except for the precise moment of when the Doctor regenerates. That 2-second clip that still exists in like really shitty quality, but it's there.
Yeah. So anyway, now we get Patrick Troughton.
Yes.
Second Doctor. And Sean, I know you have thoughts on Patrick Troughton.
Yeah, maybe.
You like this guy, right?
Yes. Just he might be my favorite. He's my favorite Doctor.
Okay.
He's the best Doctor. He's not just my favorite. I think he's the best. But
well, I think if we define best to be most historically significant, there's no questioning that.
Yeah, in terms of like what other Doctors like took to like mold their own performance off of. Yes, he's like Patrick Troughton he's like the Doctor's Doctor, because like so many doctors cite him as being like, in particular the Fifth Doctor and the 11th Doctor, like very obviously not only have like said that Patrick Troughton is their favorite Doctor, but that like they, particularly Matt Smith, has molded a lot of his performance off of what Patrick Troughton has done. But it's for good reason.
Absolutely. And what he does just encroaches upon the show and other performances in just the littlest ways too. Mm-hmm. There's the obvious stuff like Patrick Troughton does the thing with his hands, Matt Smith does the thing with his hands. Yeah. But it's even smaller stuff like that. Just like the way he walks out of the TARDIS. Mm-hmm. I remember that this episode that just came out because they just recovered it, The Enemy of the World. There's a scene where he comes out of the TARDIS at the beginning of that, and just the way he comes out and this excited expression he has. Every Doctor does that. Mm-hmm. Everyone does that. And he goes down and plays on the beach, and you can see so many Doctors doing that. Not all of them. Some Doctors wouldn't do that. Yeah. But I can't quite imagine.
The Sixth Doctor wouldn't exactly be going like, da 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 da, I'm on the beach.
I couldn't quite imagine Chris Eccleston doing that. But, David Tennant, Matt Smith.
Yeah, without a doubt.
I think Sylvester McCoy might do that.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Yes, he would.
He's a great Doctor. Tell us why he is your favorite.
I mean, for me, there is just something so utterly infectious about his performance. Like, the dude has... Like, it's not even just like he has charisma. Like, he has this... I mean, he's just magnetic. Like, it's not like... He's, I don't know. He's not like fucking Viggo Mortensen, Like, Viggo Mortensen is a very charismatic guy, but he's also like masculinity, like, boiled down into, like, a single form, Like, right. Or Brad Pitt is kind of like that. Like, Patrick Troughton is not like that at all. He's not that kind of charismatic. He's just a dude that is, like, you see him, and you see how happy he is, but how, like, wise he is. Like, he seems, of all the Doctors, like, he seems so incredibly wise and smart, and he has this, like... he shares this with the Seventh Doctor of, like, I feel like this, like, Merlin quality to him.
Absolutely.
That he reveals of just, like... Or almost, like, kind of Dumbledore-ish in a way, too, of just, like, when he sits down and gets serious about something, it's like you see behind this, like, really happy exterior he has, and then you understand it's like, oh, this guy... It doesn't just know stuff. Like, he's not just, like, a scientific genius. It's like he understands things. He understands things about, like, the human condition and stuff like that he can teach you. And I feel like a lot of times, like, that's one of the... Like, he takes his companions along with him to better them and to, like, encourage them to become smarter and to see the world in the way that he does in a lot of ways.
He's always doing that. He will always have his companions do things, not because he's lazy or can't do it himself, but because he wants to see how they'll react to things. Mm-hmm. I really like that about the Second Doctor.
Yeah.
And, you talk about his wisdom. I think one of the things that defines his wisdom is something we don't see from the Doctor anymore, that he can be afraid of things.
Yes, he is.
He can be vulnerable. And that is a form of wisdom in and of itself, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's one of the things I really like about the classic series in general that gets kind of lost with the very, like, sort of chest-pounding, like, almost, like, messianic quality that the Doctor has taken on, particularly in the David Tennant section.
Messianic? Are you referring to when the Doctor becomes Jesus in Voyage of the Damned?
Yes, maybe. And it's not just there. Like, that weirdly specific symbolism pops up in several places. But yeah, like, the old classic Doctor, and particularly Patrick Troughton, because Patrick Troughton has so much energy to him, like, especially, like when Patrick Troughton, like, there's so many scenes in so many of his serials where, like, Patrick Troughton is going out to, like, encounter something, and then it starts, like, shooting lasers at him or something, and then you get, like, a great shot of him, like, running down a hallway, kind of, like, jumping in, like, a very cartoonish but really believable fashion of, like, oh shit, I am about to get fucking, like, eviscerated by a laser, like, I need to get out of here.
Right.
That's, like, yeah, like, he has, and then it's, like, one of my favorite, like, he says... Like a lot of the Doctors have, like, sort of pseudo catchphrases of, like, not necessarily something as far as, like, Geronimo, that, like, I really dislike the modern series' tendency to make a full-on catchphrase, but the old Doctors tended to have, like, specific things that they would kind of generally say sometimes, and the Patrick Troughton's my favorite one that he has is it's just sometimes he will realize, like, shit has gone bad, and then he's got, like, this fucking great, like, wrinkle, just, like, he looks like he's, like, hundreds of years old face, and it's like, that will just certainly kind of turn sour. He'll just go, oh dear. It's just like,
I love those moments.
This has, like, this is not just fun time anymore. Like, oh dear. The Doctor needs to take care of some shit right now.
And, this is where I think this trope comes to Doctor Who, though, is when when you don't want to be Patrick Troughton's enemy when he puts stuff together.
Yeah.
You don't want to be in the room with him because he's not menacing in an overt way or anything. It's just he knows things, like you said.
Yeah, and he has like the powerful capacity to manipulate people.
Yes.
Like in a very also the Seventh Doctor had like takes this too in a lot of ways of like you can see him like doing like the kind of thing that like he will just like land on the planet or something and walk into a room and immediately like take on a character by just like looking at like things in the environment and understanding it's like, okay, if I act like this person and I just act like I'm in charge of the room, people do what I say. Like that kind of aspect to him. He demonstrates that in a lot of different places that I'm really fond of. It's just like he can immediately start manipulating the situation if he needs to.
There's such a great moment like that in The Enemy of the World. You haven't watched that one
No,
yet,
I haven't
right?
had time to. Like, I'm going to over this break.
It's so good. I haven't finished it yet, but good. The end of that first episode is one of those moments, and it's just like, yeah.
That's Travis. He's so fucking good.
And the costume. Let's talk about it. He looks cool, man.
Yeah, it's one of the things. It's like another thing I really like about the early classic series, well, particularly the first and second Doctor, is that they don't have a costume. It's like they just kind of dress that way. Like, there's nothing really crazy about them. Like this, like, you know, the second Doctor just kind of has like a suit coat and like he just looks like he's kind of dressed up a little nice, but he's also really raggedy. Like it looks like he just like picked those clothes up off the floor, you know, of the TARDIS and just threw them on.
Well, that's they call him the cosmic hobo. Was like the inspiration for this character, which I like that description.
Yeah, because that's what the Doctor is, you know, before he gets all mopey and the Time War and I killed my whole race and shit. Fuck that.
Although, you know, they've started doing this with Matt Smith now too, where he doesn't have one costume. He has this kind of dress style.
Yeah, he has a style that he dresses in. And I like that.
Which I really like that. Yeah, it works really well. But yeah, I mean, the bow tie. If you want to know where Matt Smith got that, that's because Patrick Troughton wears that like a boss.
Yes. Like he always has a fucking bow tie on, and then like he's. Every once in a while, he's sort of like, in a lot of times, like sort of iconically, he's shown as wearing like a big burly coat because when I think it might be, it's in one of the Yeti ones at the very least where he puts on that coat for the first time, and then like in the Three Doctors, I'm pretty sure he has it on for this part of it.
We should probably talk about one of the elephants in the room with Patrick Troughton, which is that a lot of his stuff sadly does not exist. We recovered a good chunk this year, got 2 full serials. That's pretty cool.
Yeah,
but. You want to explain the tragic wiping policy from the BBC?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's because they recorded them all on video, and it's just like either they got a lot of them just got deteriorated over time, or more commonly, they would take those tapes and they would wipe over them and record other stuff, and that's so
alien to us now, but
because it's like you just didn't have that concept of like archival video recording that we do now. Just like we keep everything. Posterity.
And the BBC, you should understand, you know, at the time was much more of a government entity.
Yeah.
It's now run like a TV business. And even in the 70s, it's run like a TV business. Back then, it was run like a government bureaucracy, and you don't just keep tapes around in a government bureaucracy.
But luckily, like, even though, you know, like most of the Second Doctor's era does not like exist in its original form anymore. There, like every single episode of Doctor Who exists in like some form at the very least, because everyone has basically the audio from it. Because as I understand it, people would like record the audio from the episodes like personally.
They just hold a mic up,
which is just like okay, like that's. The DVR of the 60s, like, I had no fucking clue that people did that, but it's great that they did that because you have all the audio, and then, like, every single episode has, like, multiple fan reconstructions, and then many of them have official reconstructions by taking the audio and then matching it up with production stills, and then putting in, like, subtitle stuff for any action that is, like, that is not implied by the audio, basically. And so it's not by any means like the best way to watch this stuff, and I would not recommend watching it unless you're really interested in it like I am, but it's there. Like, and some of that stuff is still really good, particularly Marco Polo, which is like I think the 3rd or 4th episode was like back in the first Doctor's first season, is fucking amazing. Like, even as just an audio thing, it would have been one of the best episodes of Doctor Who had it like fully existed, you know?
Do they play Marco Polo, or do they meet Marco Polo?
They meet Marco Polo. They meet a lot of fucking people. That's like a 10 episode. That's a long one.
Jeez. Do they also play Marco Polo at any time?
No.
That's not where we first meet the TARDIS swimming pool.
No. Okay. No. The TARDIS swimming pool does not come in until Invasion of Time.
All right. So, Second Doctor companions. he's got some great ones.
Yeah, I mean, it's like I said, Ben and Polly are the ones that sort of come in with him, although all of their stuff with the second Doctor and most of their stuff with the first Doctor no longer exist. And that's not a big tragedy because, like I said, I've never, in anything I saw Ben and Polly in, I never found them particularly exciting. But then, I believe it's in the second Doctor's second serial, The Highlands, that's where Jamie comes in, and Jamie is with him for his entire run, and he's one of my favorite companions.
I love Jamie.
Because, yeah, he's so lovable, because I think Jamie makes a really good counterpoint to the second Doctor, because Jamie can fill some of the sort of Ian role that he doesn't, like, you don't need an Ian on the show anymore because the second Doctor is physically lively enough to be able to do a lot of that stuff himself. But, like, Jamie is much more sort of, like, physically oriented, whereas the Doctor's, so intellectual that they make a great pair. There's, like, a great trust between those two companions that is a lot more, like, I buy their friendship more than I do for, like, a lot of the Doctor-companion relationships, like, it's just,
I love that it is just a friendship, and they just... it's such an honest portrayal of friendship. You see them together. Just the shorthand way they talk to each other, just the kind of trust they have. It's just something that, if you have friends, you recognize that in that. And, you know what the modern counterpoint to that is to me on Modern Who? The only one that I think has come close is Donna and the Doctor.
Yeah, I agree.
That's what it feels
why
like.
Donna is one of my favorite companions.
Yeah.
If not, like, other than maybe, like, Amy/Rory, like, my favorite companion of the new Who, because she has that quality of, like, that they just feel like good friends, and particularly with Jamie, since he is one of the longest lived companions for, like, that era of the show.
Right.
That he's, like, with the second Doctor for so long that it's like they become a pair together. That's
even really when the Doctor comes back sometimes, the second Doctor in specials, Jamie comes with him.
Yeah, like he comes back in the two Doctors during the 6 Doctors run. Yeah.
And it's just, there's some good stuff with him.
Yeah. And then, other than that, like, you have, I think her name's Victoria. Victoria, that's right. Like, I always get her name mixed up with Elizabeth for some reason. But she, Victoria. Sorry, it's okay. Something else I've been watching. Yeah, but Victoria, she most of her stuff no longer exists. She's in Tomb of the Cybermen. Like, she has one of the best scenes in Tomb of the Cybermen with the second Doctor, where the second Doctor talks to her about, like, how special it is, like, what they're doing, and that, like, this is the only moment, like, that you're the only person who can experience this precise moment in space and this precise moment in time. It's a really great scene. But Victoria, most of her stuff no longer really exists, but she's good.
She's also the companion and enemy of the world, which we just recovered, and I really like her in that.
Yeah, like, she's not anything really remarkable, but I like her. And then the one after that is Zoe, and Zoe is, like, the other one that exists, because most of the second Doctor stuff that exists is from his last season, so Zoe's with him for all the last season, and I like her a lot because she's basically a math genius. Like, she knows more about math than the Doctor does.
Which is so great sometimes.
Yeah, which is a really fantastic... So, like, the Doctor, and Jamie make, like, this really fantastic pair, where it's, like, the Doctor is sort of, like, this, like, the really wise... but, like, kind of, like, strange father/uncle figure. And then Jamie is this kind of, like, boneheaded, but really, like, strong and brave, but stupid, like male sort of, like, brother figure. And then Zoe is the really smart, but also kind of, like, elitist, like, smart in a very elitist way sister. Like, they have a really great family dynamic that like they are my favorite, like, set of companions to be just as good as the original set to me.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right, well, anything else you want to say on the second Doctor?
Fucking great. That's it.
Yep. Well, then let's move on to the next big change for the show. Third Doctor, also the introduction of color to the series.
Yes.
Jon Pertwee. Mm-hmm. Jon Pertwee, one of my personal favorites. Jeez. I have a connection. I don't know. I've always felt an immediate connection when I see Jon Pertwee episodes, which I definitely feel with Patrick Troughton too. But it's just something where when you've shown me Classic Who, I remember that's where I really, like, got into Classic Who in terms of, like, I'd like to see a lot more of this, was when I started watching some Jon Pertwee stuff.
Yeah. I mean, Jon Pertwee, and his era is one of the strangest by far on the show. Because, like you said, like, it's the first one that does color, and it's, like, the first one also that, like, the larger sort of, like, Doctor Who mythology started being created, because, like I said, in the War Games, Second Doctor's last story, that's where the Time Lords come in. Like, the Time Lords force the Doctor to regenerate in that story. And so then the Doctor like sort of crash lands on Earth, and he's banished to Earth by the Time Lords, and that's when he like falls out of the TARDIS, and you see, it's John Pertwee, he's the Doctor. And so for most of John Pertwee's run, he's stuck on Earth, and most of it is him like trying to fix his TARDIS and like get it so that he can get off of Earth, because he's the Doctor's the cosmic hobo. Like, he doesn't want to be stuck on one planet for the rest of his life.
But I'll tell you, that's one of the things that I love about the Third Doctor era. I think it's such a unique. Yeah. It's like Doctor Who meets James Bond it's and so many different styles and tones in there. The Brigadier becomes a big character. Mm-hmm. Well, we should say who the Brigadier is.
Yeah, I mean, so like let's back up a little bit. That like so with the Third Doctor, the main dynamic of his era is that one, like you said, kind of it has this James Bond vibe to it, because this is like it starts in 1970, so this is like the early 1970s. And so the Third Doctor is like this very action oriented. Like, he goes in and he like fucking karate chops people, and he has like sort of like these weird Eastern mysticism elements to him that have like this very like pulpy feel to it. That's just, and he basically feels like a secret agent half the time. So it has a very James Bondy feel to it. But then the other aspect to it is that since he's stranded on Earth, he joins UNIT, which is basically like this military unit that is made to sort of combat like alien threats or like anything that the normal military couldn't handle. And leading UNIT is Brigadier Lethbridge Stewart, who is basically, he was introduced in a couple of stories in the Second Doctor era, but this is where he really comes into the show. And he and like characters like Sergeant Benton and Captain Mike Yates are sort of like pseudo companions. And like the companion role gets kind of like fuzzy here because of those characters, that they are main characters on the show that are in basically every single episode, but they're not like companions to the Doctor. Like, a lot of times Lethbridge Stewart for most of the episodes will serve kind of as a foil for the Doctor, because the Doctor's doing stuff that just like would be like against unit regulations or something that's like, don't, like, you can't fucking do, like, you're just fucking crazy, dude, you can't do this shit. And then at the end, good old Brigadier always kind of comes around and helps him out.
But I love the Brigadier.
Yeah, he's easily one of the best characters the show has ever seen. Like, even though once the Third Doctor turns into the Fourth Doctor, and like the Fourth Doctor very quickly leaves Earth and like goes back and has like grand space adventures, the Brigadier pops up for a while, and every time he pops up, it's a happy occasion.
He even comes back for his last appearance in the Seventh Doctor's run.
Yeah,
and it's great stuff.
Yeah, I mean, he has a like brief cameo in the Sarah Jane Chronicles. So.
Oh yes, he does.
Yeah,
I forgot about that.
So he has a little bit of extra one there, but yeah, in the Battlefield, the Seventh Doctor episode, he's fucking great in that too.
And there's a dynamic between him and the Third Doctor that is just so nice.
Yeah,
because it's never. I don't know. In the episodes I've seen, it's never like the Third Doctor and the Brigadier are at odds in a hateful or spiteful way.
Yeah, they never hate each other, but it's like they both respect each other, but they both need to be doing different things.
And I also love that Brigadier is like the first Doctor Who character who gets just downright exasperated with the oddity of this man.
Yeah,
like he gets, he's like. The Brigadier puts up with the changing faces and with the time travel and stuff, but he never he puts up with it like a military man. It's like, hilarious.
When he fucking realizes that the Third Doctor is the same dude, just with a different face, and it's just like, that's a great moment. But especially like when the Third Doctor is regenerating to the Fourth Doctor, he's fucking great in that scene, because he's just like, this is not the way he looked the first time I met him, so calm down, Sarah Jane. Like,
here we go again. I think that's his line. Like, I've seen that scene.
Yeah, it's a great fucking scene.
But yeah, John Pertwee is a guy I like in Doctor Who, just because, I don't know, it's hard for me to describe what I like about this character. He has that Patrick Troughton-like ability to just be fun and engaging and lively, but there's also this.
He's very stern, like compared to most other Doctors. Like you can see that just in like his face, like he has this like he's not always like super serious, but like if you're picking a Doctor that you wanted to, like, you needed to get shit done, like seriously done, you pick the Third Doctor, because he would just go in and fucking like judo chop people.
Absolutely, and I think I love that mixture of that stern side, where it's never a mean side. It's like it's a stern, firm side, but with this kindness, with this certain level of empathy for other people. But it's, I don't know, he's a great Doctor. I love stories with him in it.
And then, like, this era also features one of the series' like most memorable recurring villains, which is the Master, as played by Roger Delgado originally. And so a lot of the early Third Doctor stuff also revolves around the Master coming up with some sort of like crazy goddamn scheme, and then the Doctor having to stop him. And so I also really like this era, because it has that like strong antagonist role that carries through for a lot of the episodes, that like It gets really ridiculous at some, like, almost kind of cartoonish at some point with, like, the types of plans the Master starts coming up with, and how, like, reliably the Doctor can just always stop him, like a Saturday morning cartoon way, but that's always fun.
And I like the idea of the Doctor having a Saturday morning cartoon villain.
Yeah.
He
Master's,
should. So,
Master's pretty great.
Third Doctor, I mean, God, it's really interesting to see how many notable characters come from the Third Doctor era.
Yeah.
Or we associate with them. Like, the Brigadier comes from Second Doctor,
yeah.
but we associate him with the Third most strongly.
Mm-hmm.
But then there's some companions from this era that are...
Yeah.
You know, Sarah Jane comes from this era.
Yeah, she comes in at the end. I mean, the first companion that he has is Dr. Elizabeth Shaw, not to be mistaken with Elizabeth Shaw from Prometheus.
This Elizabeth Shaw is better.
Yes, yeah, no, without a doubt. Which, when I fucking saw that movie, that name drove me insane for the longest time. Of like, where have I heard that name? It's like, fucking shit, it's the Third Doctor's companion. God damn it.
Yeah.
But yeah, she's around. She's only around for the first season, but she's good. And then after that, you get Jo Grant, who Jo Grant is with him for the longest section.
I like Jo Grant.
Yeah, she's a really good companion because she is like Dodo from the First Doctor's era, but not annoying. So she's like, because she has this sort of like 70s counterculture, like sort of like teenager thing going on with her. But
maybe my favorite Doctor Who joke ever is in the Three Doctors, and it's saying he is he and I am me, and she says yes, and we are all together. Goo 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 choo. It's the Beatles.
Yeah.
That joke kills me. I fucking love it. That Jo Grant worked her way into my heart with that joke.
Yeah, no, she's a great. She's fucking awesome. And then she also, like, this one of the fucking saddest. Like, the Third Doctor has two of the saddest scenes in all of Doctor Who. One is his regeneration. It's fucking sad as shit. And then, like, the other one is when Jo Grant leaves, like, in the story. I think it's the Green Death. It's something like that. It's the one where they fight giant maggots. But,
I love the sentences we can say about Doctor Who. This is the one where he fights giant maggots.
Yeah, but in that one, like, she meets this sort of like environmentalist dude who she has the hots for, and like they after everything has gone okay, like everyone, like the Brigadier, Captain Mike Yates, Sergeant Bennett, and Joe, like, and the environmentalist dude and his friends, they all have like this get together and like a party at this house, and that's when like the Doctor realizes after he's seen that's like it's like time for Joe to move on, that he doesn't show up to the party, and there's just like this great shot of like it's like you have like the inside of the party and it being so lively, and then it goes outside with the Doctor sort of watching them, and then he gets in Betsy, his yellow awesome car, and then drives away. It's fucking heartbreaking because like you get this like of this like he's just like he knows he has to move on kind of thing.
Yeah.
That's just
I love Betsy, by the way.
Yeah,
I like that car.
This is also the era that's used very scarcely, but he got a hovermobile called the Who-mobile in this era too.
How have I not seen this?
Yeah, I don't even remember what episode that comes in. It's just it comes in with like this ridiculous long car chase. It's crazy.
I'm going to go on Amazon right now and just order all Third Doctor episodes. I don't care how bankrupt I go. I want to see these.
They're fucking great. The Third Doctor era is really good. He has the episode that's like, or the serial that's like Invasion of the Dinosaurs or whatever, where it's like time gets warped and dinosaurs are appearing in modern day. It's just like, it's fucking crazy.
Alright.
It's fucking crazy.
So he regenerates into the fourth and in many ways most famous Doctor.
I would say the most famous Doctor.
Tom Baker. This is the guy your dad would know, you know?
Yeah, like this is, if you stopped a random person on the street and said, Doctor Who! Like, and they would either be like, what the fuck are you talking about? They'd be like, is that the dude with the scarf?
Right.
It's because
Tom Baker owns that scarf, man.
Yeah, he's the dude with the fucking scarf, goddammit.
Now, Tom Baker, to me, it's a weird case where I don't feel much of a connection with Tom Baker because I feel like I would need to watch more of him to get him. Because he's a different kind of Doctor, I think, in a lot of ways.
Yeah, he, especially compared to the Third Doctor, like, he's a... Like, the first, second, and Third Doctor, I all feel like are a... Like continuing thread, and then the Fourth Doctor feels like a different direction for the show that is fucking great. Like the Fourth Doctor's early years are qualitatively, I think, the best years the show had. Like if I had to sit down like list like the best episodes of Doctor Who, it's like there are so many just unbelievable episodes that come in his first few years that are just, it's fucking crazy. But yeah, like he sort of like brings in this shift of like the Fourth Doctor is like a era all in his own because he's like 6 or 7 years, and then by the time the Fourth Doctor moves on, like the producer role had shifted to John Nathan Turner, and like John Nathan Turner's has like his years are very distinctive of like the Fifth and Sixth Doctor's eras. Just like that's when like everything gets all like space and crazy. The theme song gets even more awesome than it was.
It's most awesome historically.
Yes. The JNT theme is pretty fucking great. But yeah, like the Fourth Doctor. How do you even fucking talk about this dude? Like he's the Fourth Doctor is fucking amazing. That Tom Baker. If you're talking about like magnetism or charisma, like fucking Tom Baker owns every single scene he has. So, like he has this like immense charm and just like his voice is so distinctive and iconic that like every time just like Tom Baker walks on the set, like everything just revolves around him. Like in this, like this is like when you look at the modern series and then you look back at the classic series where you can see like the threads of like the Doctor being Jesus starting. I think kind of starts with Tom Baker of just like how like not even necessarily Tom Baker stories used him that way, but they could have because of how fucking just badass he is. Just like
I do feel there
immense presence.
Well, I do feel like at least in the Fourth Doctor stories I've seen, there is this much greater sense of him commanding rooms and him commanding spaces when he comes in. You know, it seems like things are less of a challenge for him in some ways.
Yeah, that he had, and you get this sense of like over those years that you have watched the show, and like if watching the show the way I did it, and a lot of like I say it's a new direction, but a lot of it felt really natural in that by the time the Fourth Doctor comes on, the Doctor has seen so much shit, and like you as the viewer has seen so much shit with him of like all the crazy shit he's had to deal with, like the Daleks and the Daleks. The Daleks and the Daleks and Cybermen multiple times, giant fucking maggots, dinosaurs, sensorites. It's just, yes, Yetis, like multiple times, Yetis, just like the war machines. Like, it's just fucking, he's dealt with the craziest fuck. He's fought the Zarbi, who are just like ant people. Like, it's crazy. He's fought crazy shit. So at this point in his life cycle, like, it's just like, fuck it, man. Like, if the Doctor knows how to take care of a situation, like he's still going around the universe to have fun, but you know when he ends up on Skaro in the midst of a civil war and realizes I am witnessing the birth, one might call the genesis of the Daleks, that he realizes like he is able to take care of. Well, okay, he's ultimately not able to take care of that situation because there's no way to take care of that situation, but he is so effective in like everything he's trying to do that it's like he's a formidable force.
There's something laid back about the Fourth Doctor that is very compelling.
Yeah, that like it's not like he walks into a room and you think he's going to beat you up because it's like like he is this unstoppable force. It's like no, he doesn't need to. It's like he's so calm. He knows everything that he needs to know. He can take care of the situation however he wants, but he doesn't let anybody know it. He's like he very much also like the Second Doctor has that manipulative presence of just like I'm going to walk into this room, I'm going to convince everybody that I am meant to be here, that I am in a position of authority over you, and that you should do what I say.
And maybe it's because Tom Baker's shadow just looms so long.
Yeah.
But he's not a Doctor who feels all that imitated to me in subsequent incarnations. I don't think you could. Like, there's something like specific I think certain different elements, like the laid-back quality, I see that sometimes in some Christopher Eccleston cases.
Yeah.
I see that occasionally in other Doctors, but most of the time...
Like, David Tennant, like, when David Tennant smiles, like, when David Tennant's really happy, when the 10th Doctor's really happy, I think he takes, like, it's the same kind of feeling as, like, the Fourth Doctor expresses, I think.
But it's just little elements. It's not,
like... Yeah, like, there's nobody... Yeah, it's not like you can look at Matt Smith in Patrick Troughton and be like, okay, like, there are significant portions of this performance that are not just, like, not lifted, but, like, are clearly inspired directly by the Second Doctor.
Right.
Whereas, like, the Fourth Doctor, like, Tom Baker just has such a unique presence. Like, the combination of his physicality and his voice is something that's, like, I don't think you can take, almost, you know?
Right.
Fucking cool. Like, Fourth Doctor, like, watching his era is the most addictive to me the show has ever been, because he is so much fun to watch, because he's just fun to watch. Like, he seems like if you wanted to go across like all the span of space and time, he's the guy you'd want to do it with, because it's just how much fun it'd be to be with him.
Certainly, he would never let you be bored.
Yeah, that's what that is. And he's got a seemingly infinite supply of jelly babies, so it's like he's constantly throwing
the jelly babies. I forgot which Doctor did that.
It's great.
And he can probably get you a scarf if you need one.
And he's got like a great running gag of like that. It's introduced in Genesis of the Daleks. Of he just like carries immense amounts of just random crap in his pockets. So it's like whenever he has to empty his pockets, it's just like piles and piles of stuff. It's great.
Yeah. All right.
So
Fourth Doctor has too many companions to go through.
Yeah. Yeah.
But what are your favorites?
I mean, there's obviously Sarah Jane. Like, I think she's a bridge companion with the Third Doctor to the Fourth Doctor. But her most memorable stuff to me is definitely her stuff with the Fourth Doctor, because they have really great chemistry. Like the scene where Sarah Jane leaves the TARDIS and has to leave the Doctor behind. Like, that's a fucking phenomenal scene.
And Sarah Jane obviously leaves a big impact because she came back in the modern series and then got a spin-off.
Yeah, and Sarah Jane started of like the model of like the. I mean, obviously, you had Liz Shaw and Joe Grant also being like the solitary female companions to the Doctor, but Sarah Jane of like that specific character type of like the very very like sort of like powerful female companion that is very much able to hold her own. Like, especially in the modern series, it's like to its detriment. I feel like every fucking companion feels like Sarah Jane to me at some point, of just like fits exactly into that mold of like contemporary, for that time, contemporary like female British girl who is strong-willed and capable and intelligent and can hold her own and can like sort of like verbally spar with the Doctor. That's just Sarah Jane. And like every fucking companion feels like that to me now.
Yes. All right. So, any other ones you want to touch on?
There's K9.
Oh, K9!
Yeah,
I love K9.
There's fucking K9, robot dog.
I love in the Fourth Doctor's regeneration scene, he hears all his companions and hears K9.
Yeah.
That's so great. That's one of the last companions he thinks of, too, and then he regenerates.
K9's pretty fucking awesome. And then actually one of my favorite companions on the show, and one of the most interesting, is Romana, who comes in near the end, where she's interesting because she's a time lady, and she's like one of the only other, like aside from the Doctor and the Master, like Time Lord characters that are prominent in the show. And she sticks around for, I think, 2, maybe 3 seasons. Like 2.5 seasons. But she starts off being portrayed by Mary Tam, and they get sort of thrown together in this really great season that's called The Key of Time, where the Doctor is sent by the White Guardian to find the Key of Time. And each of the episodes is like, hey, here's the Key of Time, you have to take it. That maybe doesn't make sense, that's just what it is.
I think there's a box set that just puts all of them together.
Which, if you're looking for like a set of DVDs to get for the Fourth Doctor, most of the Key of Time episodes, like there's 2 of them are Robert Holmes episodes, the Ribos Operation, and Kroll, something about Kroll. Those 2 episodes are fucking amazing. But
it's expensive.
Yeah. Well, hey, buying that many like one separately.
Oh, that's a lot. Yeah. I didn't know it was that many.
It's a full season. It's a full season of the show.
Oh, that's fair then.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot of Doctor Who to watch. So Mary Tam portrays Romana for that whole, because she's like a time lady who is like sent to help him, and so they have a really interesting dynamic of that. Like, she grows to like at first she's very wary of the Doctor because he doesn't trust him, because he just seems sort of buffoonish, because like if you just suddenly got thrown into a room with the Fourth Doctor, I don't know what the fuck you'd make of him. But like over time, she comes to understand like how intelligent and how Mary Tam, like Romana is very like smart, like academically smart, but it's like the Fourth Doctor's like street smart motherfucker. Like he's got that edge to him. Like he knows. It's like he's
been out there in the world.
Yeah, he left Gallifrey like fucking forever ago, and he knows how shit gets done. Like maybe he's like, if you gave him a fucking math test, he wouldn't like ace it. But that doesn't fucking matter. Like he knows what's going on in the streets, dog.
So, the streets of time.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, in the time vortex.
Yes.
And then Mary Tam regenerates after the season of time, or the Key of Time season.
That's cool. That he had a companion who regenerated.
She regenerates into Lalla Ward or Romana 2, and then she's also fucking awesome, because then their dynamic completely shifts, because Lalla Ward, you get the sense of like she now kind of wants to mimic and be like the Doctor, and ultimately when she leaves, she basically does become like the Doctor for this different world. But yeah, like her, like that dynamic is awesome. She's easily one of the strongest companions the show has seen.
All right. So do you want to move on to the next Doctor?
Sure.
All right. 5th Doctor, Peter Davison.
Yes.
He would solidify the legacy of you leave after 3 years.
Yeah, exactly. Peter Patrick Troughton rule.
Yes. And another kind of Doctor.
Yeah, very different Doctor. Like he's the most passive of all the Doctors in a weird way. Of like, this is like the section of the show that brings back the First Doctor and Second Doctor tradition of sort of having like a family of companions in the TARDIS, where he is just like listing his companions. Like, don't even like. There's just so many. But it's like,
well, the best one obviously is Perry. I'm kidding.
Yeah, no. Sorry. But I mean, the main group is like Atrick, Tegan, and Nyssa. And Nyssa in particular is one of his more memorable companions, because I don't know. Like this section of the show, the companions tend to be pretty weak overall, I feel. But
here's the thing about the Fifth Doctor for me.
Yeah.
Before we talk about his companions, is that I feel kind of bad about this because I've only seen his last episode.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
But I feel like I don't have a good sense of who the Fifth Doctor was in totality because I've only seen him in his final hours.
Yeah. And you do get because so many of his companions leave him over the course of like those 3 years. Like this is the era of the show that only has the only, as far as I'm concerned, like real companion death. In Earthshock, Attrick dies. And that's a fucking... Like, I didn't like Attrick that much, but when he dies, it's fucking sad. Like, mostly because you see how much it affects the Fifth Doctor. And this is also, like, I should mention, like, the era of the show. Like, the Jonathan Mason Turner years, while the theme song is really awesome, and there's still good stuff, and I like the Fifth Doctor a lot, like, the average quality of the show starts dropping drastically. That's, like... You know, you still have standout amazing episodes like Case of Androzani or, like, Kinda and Snake Dance are two other really good Fifth Doctor ones. But, like, the average quality of, like, the individual stories is not as good as it used to be.
Yeah. But let's talk about the Fifth Doctor. What do you feel like defines him? Because I just don't know how to answer that because I've only seen him in kind of a special circumstance.
I mean, there's, like, this... Like, if I had to, like pick one word that defines him, it's gentle. Like, that's what the Fifth Doctor is. Like, compared to all the other Doctors, he feels like... You know, because, like, none of the other Doctors, like to fight or like encounter these evils and stuff and try to defeat them, or like in some cases having like being forced to kill them in some way. But like the Fifth Doctor in particular just feels like the most sort of like pacifist of them all and the most dedicated to sort of like just preserving life in general. And so he's a really, he doesn't have that commanding presence that Tom Baker has. Like it's particularly watching like marathoning Doctor Who, it's a really harsh setback because of how prominent Tom Baker is, and then how sort of in the background Peter Davison feels in a lot of his stuff. But that feels, but it's nice because it's a big change of pace, and it puts the companions a little bit more in the forefront, gives them some more to do, and then it gives the Doctor a very different dynamic of that. You get this sense again, like I said, like this is Peter Davison is very clearly inspired by the Second Doctor. Like he said that's his favorite Doctor. He took on the Troughton rule of only being on the show for 3 years to avoid being typecast, and he has that, like you talked about, sense of like he can be afraid of something, like but he's also like one of those Doctors that he, like when he runs away from shit like the Second Doctor, like you fucking feel it, like he knows I got to get the fuck out of here, so I am going to fucking go and run, you know, because that's in Doctor Who, that's like one of the most important things. Just fucking run. They like to bring that up a lot in Modern Who. It's just like we run a lot because that's what we do.
And maybe that's one of the things that makes Caves of Androzani so good is that that's the situation he cannot run from.
Yeah. That his companion is put into peril, so he must like I said, like he has this strong desire of like protecting stuff. That's like when placed in that situation, like he will stop at nothing to protect the people like close to him, or even like just anybody. Because he's.
But Peter Davison is a beloved Doctor. There's a lot of people who really who grew up in his era. You know, David Tennant. We'll talk about him more than anyone else. Yeah. And David Tennant even did this little episode with him, which is so great.
Yeah.
That mini episode where Peter Davison comes back.
Fucking great. Yeah.
Yeah. But you know, so we touched upon his companions a little bit. Is there anything else to say about them?
Not a whole lot. Tegan's an Australian air stewardess. That's just kind of weird. She's weird.
I like that.
I don't. Then you get Turlough is really weird. I don't like Turlough that much. And then you get Perry. Perry's.
They used her well in Caves of Androzani for a thematic purpose.
Yes, but Perry, as portrayed by Nicola Bryant, is not American. Perry is supposed to be American, so Perry's voice, one might call annoying. One might also call a constant death screech. I don't know.
Sean is so trying to withhold himself here.
It's really annoying. Like her voice, they should have just let her speak in a British accent. Would have been 1,000 times better. But even beyond that, like Perry is this really entitled sort of like American heiress girl that's just not.
Why would the Doctor travel with her? That kind of thing.
Yeah, it's just she feels out of place and just annoying and spoiled and just you don't like Perry and that would be okay to have a companion like that if you had other companions. to balance it out, but like tragically, Perry, like, of this era of the Fifth Doctor, where the Fifth Doctor had like fucking 4 companions at one time at one point, if you count Chameleon, the shape-shifting robot that's in 2 episodes.
I just love the asides. You can just throw out really quickly. Oh, you get Chameleon, a shape-shifting robot. I need to see more Doctor Who. I have somehow I have missed all the crazy shit.
There's so much crazy shit I am skipping over. You have no idea. But yeah, no, like it's tragic that then Perry is, like, in Caves of Androsani, she is the only companion the Fifth Doctor has, and then when she transitions to become a Sixth Doctor companion, she is also the only companion on the show until she just leaves, you know?
Well, then let's talk about him. The Sixth Doctor, Colin Baker.
Yeah, so when I said this is the part where you see the average quality of the show start declining, this is the part where you really feel it. Where I made some comments about an episode called The Twin Dilemma earlier in this podcast,
which follows one of the very best episodes.
Yeah, which they do something fucking really weird where the Fifth Doctor's last season, the second to last episode is Caves of Androsani, which is the Fifth Doctor's last episode, and the last episode of the season is The Twin Dilemma, which introduces the Sixth Doctor, which is, I guess they wanted to, I kind of get it, because we're in a situation where it's pretty soon where we're going to see the 11th Doctor regenerate and not get anything with the next Doctor for like 2 years. So I can kind of understand why you'd want to, like, maybe make that transition a little smoother by getting you to know the new Doctor and then taking the break for the next season. But the Twin Dilemma is easily one of the worst episodes the show has ever seen, which sets a very rotten tone for the entire Sixth Doctor era, which I should say is not due to the Sixth Doctor himself being bad. Colin Baker is great in the role, like, especially when he's able to, get material that is not horseshit in the Big Finish audio dramas. That's the stuff that, like, the Eighth Doctor really gets to shine through too. The Sixth Doctor is fucking great in those. But yeah, when he's stuck with Perry and he's stuck with really bad scripts, there's just nothing Colin Baker could do. And then, like, the BBC, Michael Grade, who was the head of the BBC at the time, literally actively tried to kill the show. Like, he was to the point where they created the Sixth Doctor's last season, Trial of a Time Lord. That entire season, which is most of it, is total fucking terrible, but most of it is meant to be sort of this, like, meta commentary of, like, justifying why Doctor Who should still be on the air. That it's like, even if, like, like, all their bullshit excuses about it being, like, too violent or scary or something, which, from a modern perspective, like, that just sounds completely ludicrous watching that stuff. But, like, justifying why that stuff exists, so I appreciate the Trial of Time Lord for what it is. But yeah, like, there's not a lot to say about the Sixth Doctor's era. It's just not. It's good. Too
well. You can talk about his costume.
Yes,
he wears a rainbow.
Yeah, and it should be noted, Colin Baker did not want to wear a costume that his costume is basically a patchwork coat of just every Technicolor dream coat, basically, but on steroids. It's ridiculous. Colin Baker just wanted to wear a normal black outfit because Colin Baker wanted to harken back a lot to the First Doctor era and give his Doctor a clear character arc of where he starts off. The Sixth Doctor, out of all the Doctors, even more so than the First Doctor, is by far the most, like, egotistical, the most arrogant. He is incredibly smart, but he flaunts it in a way the other Doctors never would have, like, especially Second Doctor on.
And that's what I get most strongly from watching him.
Yeah, and it's not like that's terrible. Like, that can work, but with a bad script and then a character that's not actively trying to be likable, like, that makes it really hard to get these episodes.
And that's my problem watching his episodes. It's not Colin Baker himself. It's all those elements you mentioned.
Yeah.
Now, if I were to listen to some of the Big Finish stuff, does he really get to play the character he wanted to play?
Yeah, and you do get a sense, especially because the companions in the Big Finish stuff, like, across the board, are the best companions that should, like, in Doctor Who, because they are able to be whatever they want to be. And so he has, like, this one companion, Evelyn Smythe, who is this sort of, like, middle-aged history college professor, who she is fucking amazing. Like them as a pair is perfect, and it is really sad, almost, like, listening to those stories because of how good they are and how good that chemistry is and how good of the set of, like, Doctor and companion those two characters are. And then you're like, and the Colin Baker was stuck with fucking Perry and fucking Mel. Which, if there's one companion that is even more annoying than Perry, it's Mel. Mel is basically, she's got, like, this, like, really big bushy red hair, and if you thought Perry's voice was annoying because of the fake American accent, Mel just screeches every single one of her lines, and it is infuriating. I fucking despise Mel. She's probably I'm trying to. There's a lot of companions. I'm trying to think of anyone that I hate more. Mel's probably at the top of the list of like the companions that I never want to see again.
Mel is the one who was in the episode you showed me of Colin Baker, right? The Dalek one.
No, that's Perry.
Perry still? Okay.
Perry's yeah, because Mel only comes in Trial of a Time Lord because Perry dies in Trial of a Time Lord, I think the first serial, but then she doesn't really die. She comes back and marries a barbarian. But Mel comes in and then she's like this like fitness, like she tries to keep on getting Colin Baker, like the Sixth Doctor, to work out and like drink carrot juice. It's weird. It's not good.
Why?
Yeah, it's really fucking dumb.
Alright, well, you want to talk about a better era for the show?
Yes, please, let's move on.
Seventh Doctor.
Yes.
Sylvester McCoy. Hopefully y'all know him from The Hobbit. You
Yeah.
should go back and watch him on Doctor Who, because he wears a sweater with fucking question marks on it.
And he has an umbrella, which has a question mark on the end. And does this make him look like the Riddler? Why, yes. Yes, it does.
But
and
you know what?
Crazy.
Sylvester McCoy is so good, he just owns it.
Yeah, no, Sylvester McCoy, the Seventh Doctor, is one of my favorites. He's so... Like, he doesn't come into his own until his second season. Like, the first season has a strong, like, still feels like kind of the Sixth Doctor era in a bad way. But once fucking Mel leaves, thank God, once she leaves, and then Ace comes on, who's one of the show's strongest companions, her and the Seventh Doctor are a really strong pair, and then you see the Seventh Doctor really come into his own, where the Seventh Doctor is really dark, he's like Machiavellian in a terrifying way sometimes, of like, you know, we've talked a lot about like the Doctor having this capacity to manipulate people and using that to his advantage, but like usually that's in a very benign way. Like the Seventh Doctor is manipulative in a way that like, in a Loki way, you know, when we were talking about Thor 2 in the last podcast, of like, sometimes you don't know when the Seventh Doctor is manipulating situations and when he's not. Like because a lot of his era also revolves around Andrew Cartmel, who was the primary script editor at the time, had what we like the Doctor Who fans like to call now the Cartmel Master Plan. That he had this plan that eventually of giving the Doctor back this like mystery that is like Seventh Doctor era feels a lot like modern Who, of like you have these like very grand ideas and like trying to go back to the series' roots. So you have episodes like Revelation of the Daleks that sort of like reveal stuff about why the Doctor was on Earth in the first place and stuff like that, of harkening back to the show's roots and trying to answer the question Doctor Who, but in a like metaphorical way of like of trying to bring back Doctor Who-ness to the show, of like we don't know who this character really is anymore. And unfortunately the Cartmel Master Plan was cut short because the show got canceled in 1989 with ironically with the serial titled Survival. But
that is some sad irony.
Yeah. But like the seeds of the Cartmel Master Plan, even though you don't see them like amount to anything, are still utterly fascinating, because a lot of the Seventh Doctor's best episodes revolve around him taking Ace to like where you realize that he's taking Ace to these places in her past, or to places maybe not directly related to her past, but that represent some sort of like deep-seated fear she has, and you get the sense that he's like training her. Like she does not realize what's going on, but when you're watching those episodes, you see this like he's preparing her for something that like you learned that the Cartmel Master Plan, if you like read the other shit, it was ultimately for her to become a time lady, which is weird. I don't know how that would have worked, but it was fucking cool. Like the Seventh Doctor era, his last two seasons, basically mostly when he puts on the brown coat, like the dark brown coat instead of the light brown coat, and like you realize, oh, this is something different. Like this is a very different take of the Doctor. It's really, really good. It's one of those, like his last 2 years are some of the strongest the show's ever had. So, I love some Sylvester McCoy.
He's a good Doctor. What influences do you think he's had on modern Doctors?
I mean, I think especially whenever you see the situations where like the Doctor gets really dark, like you see a lot of like in David Tennant when he sometimes gets melancholy, and there's Human Nature and Family of Blood, which are the two of my favorite episodes that like they are based on a Seventh Doctor novel, and you can see that because at the end when he's like he basically like subjects these people to the worst like torments possible of just like encasing them for all time and shit.
Yeah,
like that is something the Seventh Doctor would do, of just
the whole
this
plan with
righteous
the watch
justice
and everything.
Yeah, like all of that, like that, any of that, of like the sense of the Doctor being almost like the Doctor being Batman in like the God Batman way of like you think you maybe have outsmarted him, but you have not. Like he has come up with 5 dozen other plans that you could not have possibly come up with, and he can like like the Seventh Doctor is the kind of Doctor that would beat Superman in a fight. That's like whenever you get that sense from modern Doctor Who, that's definitely comes from the Seventh Doctor era.
Could we say Stephen Moffat really took a lot from this era?
Yeah,
then?
yeah, definitely. Yeah. Like the Cardinal Master Plan stuff is definitely very Stephen Moffat-y, and then the Stephen Moffat stuff is very Cartmel Master Plan-y. Yeah. And then like a lot of the darker shit that's totally Sylvester McCoy. So
nice. All right.
Great shit.
Well, sadly, Doctor Who ended in 1989. It's all okay now.
Yeah.
It's fine. We've got new Doctors. We've got new Doctor Who. It's awesome. It's great.
Yeah.
Things couldn't be better. But at the time, it must have been very sad to be a Doctor Who fan.
I don't know, because this was just me watching fucking Doctor Who over the course of the year of my life.
Well, I wanted to ask you, was there kind of a melancholy to getting to the end of Classic Who and knowing that style was dead?
Not really, because it's like this is like something that's always been cool about Doctor Who, especially just marathoning it that way, that even though like I came to love Patrick Troughton so much, like there's always this excitement to me of like, but now there's going to be something new. Like there's going to be some new style that's like, now we get John Pertwee, and you get to fall in love with John Pertwee, and then you get Tom Baker, and then you get
right now there's this melancholy of Matt Smith's leaving, and that sucks because we love Matt Smith. But
for me,
Peter
it's like
Capaldi.
Peter Capaldi. Like we're getting a new Doctor, and that to me, like that, like there's a little bit of melancholy in me, but the anticipation of what the show can be next has always supplanted like the melancholy of the Doctor leaving and that kind of stuff. So like I saw it was like the saddest part about the Seventh Doctor stuff was that it felt like it got cut early, but then I was like, okay, like now there's this TV movie, like what the fuck is this? And then we get the revived series, and what the fuck is that? Like how does this show stay alive? Like how does this show end in 1989, come back in 1995 for a TV movie, and then come back again 10 years later in 2005 with a whole nother series that is still ongoing? Like that, when I reached that point, I was like, what the fuck? How is this show still here? Because the show fucking ended.
It's crazy, and the first attempt at bringing it back failed pretty miserably. Let's talk about it, Sean.
Okay, yeah.
Eighth Doctor.
Yes,
Paul McGann. Fox makes a backdoor pilot as a TV movie for a American Doctor Who show. They at least cast a British guy.
Yeah, thank God.
Paul McGann, they let him play British. Sylvester McCoy in a really weird but cool TARDIS.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite TARDIS designs.
Is in the TV movie?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, this is oddly fitting, I think, in some ways. He steps out of the TARDIS and gets shot by punks.
Yeah.
It's the one thing the Seventh Doctor would not see coming.
Yeah. It's just like, like materializing in San Francisco, stepping out of the TARDIS and getting shot by, like, a random Asian gang. Yeah.
So he gets shot, and then the movie gets weird.
This movie... So, when the movie, like, that section, I don't know. I love that how it has, like, this really strong Frankenstein vibe of, like...
It does.
Where even it, like, directly, like, because the Seventh Doctor gets taken to a hospital. They are unable to perform surgery on him because, hey, he's a Time Lord. He does not have human anatomy. Which it took them a while to figure that fucking part out, that he has 2 goddamn hearts. But then he dies on the operating table, and he regenerates a little bit later. And so when he regenerates, when he's in the morgue, and you have the fucking oafish, like, big fat security guard dude who's apparently that's all you get at hospitals is that guy, and he's just watching the fucking Frankenstein movie on TV in case you didn't get the parallels.
Right.
But yeah. So
you want to do the line?
No. Well, it's
okay. You've done it.
We've done it. Okay, sure. Fuck it. So the Seventh Doctor regenerates into the Eighth Doctor, who just starts wandering around the hospital, and in one of the greatest and most bizarre non sequiturs in film I've ever seen. He's wandering around again. This is like a normal, like high class hospital in the middle of fucking San Francisco, and he's just wandering around, wanders out of the morgue, and goes into a room of the hospital where, like, outside it's raining, it's storming because it's fucking Frankenstein, and in this, like, weird hallway in the hospital, the windows are broken, so, like, rain is coming in from the outside, and it's windy and just sort of, like, chaotic. And this room is covered in, like, mirrors, and, like, half the mirrors are broken and half of them aren't. And then he looks into one mirror and, like, kind of looks at himself and then yells out, "Who ham hey!" And you don't... It's just... Why is that room in the hospital? Like, who keeps a room full of broken fucking mirrors in a hospital? Is it for purely symbolic purposes in case you have an amnesiac patient? Like, I don't know. But apparently, like, the movie's maybe a little bit ham-fisted with the symbolism.
It's a piece of shit. The movie's horrible.
If the movie's not horrible, come on, let's be fair.
It's a piece of shit.
It's not a piece of shit. It's okay.
It's not okay.
The movie has its moments, I think.
Okay.
Eric Roberts as the Master, that's horrible. That part
Yes.
of the movie is really bad. But I like Paul McGann. Like, he's not...
I like Paul McGann, too. I think the movie around him is bad.
It's bad, but it's not horrible.
Okay.
And it being bad makes it kind of fun to watch.
It is fun to watch.
Yeah.
Because, you have things like the Doctor in his post-regeneration delirium telling the woman he's half human,
Yeah.
and them falling in love, and it's kind of weird, but...
Hey, man, if you have trouble with the Doctor falling in love, the Revive series is rough. I should know.
But,
That's where it starts.
Yeah. So... But in any case, we can forget the TV movie, not Doctor Who's Finest Hour.
Yeah.
But Paul McGann still had a life as the Doctor, in fact, one of the longest lives.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, if you count, like, the tenure of a Doctor from, like, where it starts and then, like, it ends regardless of the episodes actually being made, yeah, he was around for 10 fucking years, so...
Yeah, I mean, I think it's been credited, like, just through Big Finish audio dramas and stuff, he's had more stories about him.
Yeah,
the Eighth Doctor than any other Doctor.
The Eighth Doctor stuff... I'd probably not more than the Fourth Doctor. Like, that's kind of... I don't know. That'd be kind of hard to equate, like, this is, like, episodes with serials, but... Yeah, but the Eighth Doctor stuff with Big Finish, like, I have not listened to all of it because some of it's hard to see and it's expensive, but... Or some of it's hard to listen to, I guess, and it's expensive. But they are really good. Like, if you can find them on sale in some way and, like, get a bunch of them, and you have, like, periods of time in the day where it's like you want to listen to an audio drama, like, they are so fucking good. They are so much fun, and it's so... And Paul McGann is really good, and it's really just nice to have the Eighth Doctor be able to kind of like with the Sixth Doctor, be in stuff that's not terrible. And I should say that, like, there's a Fifth Doctor and Seventh Doctor Big Finish audio stuff that's also really good, and they've made some Fourth Doctor stuff that I haven't listened to, but I want to because...
Did Tom Baker do those?
Yeah.
That's
like,
awesome.
They're all the original actors, and then if they have returning companions, the returning companions are played by the original actors. And one of the Sixth Doctor ones features the companion Frobisher, who is a shape-shifting penguin. So
I have to hear this.
Yeah. He comes from the comic books, which I have not read many Doctor Who comic books, but
You can't see Doctor Who everything.
yeah,
Literally. You cannot get all...
It's an ongoing process for me.
Yes. Alright, well, in any case, Eighth Doctor, he had some good audio dramas, but the movie was a flop.
Yeah.
Big time. So, 2005, Russell T. Davies, who, I say bad things about sometimes because he wrote some bad episodes of Doctor Who.
Yeah.
But, this guy is such a significant figure in Doctor Who history because he figured out how to bring this show back.
Yeah.
And to do it successfully. And we would not be here today talking about this cool 50th anniversary special and whatnot if it weren't for Russell T. Davies. Mm-hmm. And you look at the Christopher Eccleston season, and it's got its ups and downs. I actually think it's one of the strongest seasons of the Revive show.
I agree, yeah.
And it just it clicked. It brought the show back. Mm-hmm. But that was with a new Doctor, the Ninth Doctor, Christopher Eccleston. Christopher Eccleston, what do you think?
I really fucking like him. I think it's like if he was not as good as he was, I don't like the show would not have been able to continue. Like,
no.
Like, and the fact that he makes, like, he's the shortest lived of the Doctors, but he makes, with the Eighth Doctor, like, that's such a weird situation. Ignoring that situation, he's the shortest lived of the Doctors, but he makes such a powerful impact that it's like he's so likable, and he's so different in a lot of ways from the other Doctors. Like you can buy this version of the character in, like, this modern format, but he still keeps a lot of that spirit of the older Doctors while having his weird, like, PTSD Time War shit going on,
Yeah. And, man, it's just I always forget when I go back and watch Christopher Eccleston episodes, because I think of the darkness, I think the word brooding has been ruined by, like, Batman movies, but he broods in a really interesting way.
Yeah.
Which is that he's kind of broken inside by some things. He's clearly seen some shit, which we don't touch upon a lot in his era. He holds
smart
that.
Choice, yeah.
Yeah. But in any case, when you go back and watch him, he's very funny. He's very, lively.
Yeah.
He has fun. He has elements of Patrick Troughton to him.
Yeah.
Too.
Love that.
Yeah, but, he's still... It's so interesting to see how energetic he is, contrasted with that darkness. And I think that's what made Modern Who work, is that you could have these very classical Doctor elements with things we really hadn't seen before.
Yeah.
That Christopher Eccleston did things that the Doctor had not done before. he went to places. He could go to dark places that, you talk about Sylvester McCoy and stuff. There's something more overt about some of the Christopher Eccleston stuff.
I mean, although, Sylvester McCoy fucking blew up goddamn planets. Like, he wiped out species.
That's true.
Like, you saw him wipe out species. It wasn't just sort of implied in a tragic backstory. You fucking watched him blow up Skaro.
Wow.
Yeah, so you want to talk about dark. I can go dark, motherfucker.
But yes, I love the Christopher Eccleston era if it's just one season. But, honestly, he has such a tight arc over that season. Yeah,
like, the fact that he's short-lived is part of what makes him so memorable, because it's like you don't get... because it's like with Tom Baker, by the time the Fourth Doctor era ends, like, he has outlived, like, his presence on the show. Like, part of that is because, like, he has outlived, like, kind of 2 whole production, like, staff shifts, so it's like he stayed on for a long time.
It's like Roger Moore and James Bond. It's
like John Nathan Turner came on as the main producer for the show in his last year, and like the Fourth Doctor does not mesh with the JNT style of Doctor Who at all. So like it's like the Christopher Eccleston being on the show when he needs to be on the show, but then leaving when the time was right is perfect, because having him regenerate at the end of the first season, I think, really works to also just like sell the revived show and the new pace of the revived show and how that works.
I think that very much, because I remember, I knew about regeneration in that other people would play this character. But you get to the end of Parting of the Ways, great finale, so much good stuff there. I know it's got that dumb...
The Bad Wolf stuff.
The Bad Wolf stuff is kind of dumb.
It's so dumb. It makes no sense. The Bad Wolf, it's so arbitrary. It's
arbitrary.
so fucking
there's
dumb.
Such good stuff in that episode around it, though. I mean,
the Bad Wolf stuff is dumb.
I know, but the way the Ninth Doctor goes out in his last scene is great. In any case, he regenerates into David Tennant, and this is when Doctor Who became Doctor Who to me in the revived series. Especially when you go into the next episode, and David Tennant, you very clearly realize it's one of the best continuities between Doctors, because David Tennant is so clearly the same man. He's just a new face and a new personality, and they really do a great job selling that. I mean, obviously the Matt Smith transition isn't as smooth because it's a whole new staff.
Yeah.
But I think that 9 to 10, we really equate this as one big era.
Yeah.
And it's partly because you see the 10th Doctor evolve out of the 9th so clearly, and I love that. So let's talk about the 10th. Well, Ninth Doctor's sole companion is Rose.
Yeah. This is like, definitions of companions is kind of weird, because like you count Jack really, like, kind of like... Jack
is a 9-10 companion, because he comes back and forth. He's like
I mean, I don't actually count him as a companion.
Okay.
Like, I have a strict...
Okay.
There are strict rules.
Tell us.
Like, Brigadier is not a companion. Like the companion, there's a clear rule that the companion has to be... probably female, like not always, but probably has to be female. Usually there's only one of them. If there's like multiple ones, you have to really analyze whether or not they count as a companion. And then the companion has to be with the Doctor like for episode after episode after episode after episode, and not leave until they are gone and they are off the show. Like the companion is a continued presence until the companion is not on the show anymore.
Well, then that's Rose is his only one.
Yeah, exactly. And companions have to last like a whole season, basically, for me to have them count.
All right, well, so Rose is...
So that's why Katarina, the Trojan handmaiden, to me doesn't count. So that's why Atric is the first companion death, and only companion death as of now.
Good analysis, Sean.
Yes.
All right, so Rose is his companion. We will talk about some things they do poorly with Rose later.
Yes,
very poorly. Rose is really good in the first season. And I think... I even want to make it clear, I don't ever want to make fun of Billie Piper.
She's a good actor. It's kind of like the Colin Baker situation, which is like, it's good actor, bad stuff around them. So.
Yeah. But in that first season, really not. Some of the Bad Wolf stuff, maybe.
Bad Wolf stuff's dumb.
Okay.
Come on.
It's bad. It's dumb.
It's just this dumb fucking red herring that, like, that phrase just means literally nothing. It just means nothing.
Well, and I would like the direction her character goes in at the end if they didn't do the Bad Wolf stuff.
Yeah.
The arc word, as Russell T. Davies likes to say. Stephen Moffat may not always resolve his arcs well. At least he does real story arcs.
Yeah.
You can actually get invested in things.
Yeah.
You can also get let down with the Tesseract, but... No, wait. Is that it?
Yes.
Okay, because I'm also thinking of the thing from the Avengers.
Yeah.
All right, whatever.
Sure.
Let's see. So, we regenerating to the 10th Doctor, David Tennant. I love David Tennant, great Doctor.
Yeah, except for you've got... Or is it the 10th and then the 11th Doctor? Is Christopher Eccleston the 10th Doctor? Who fucking knows? Who knows? Fucking Stephen Moffat, goddammit.
Okay.
God fucking damn it. Like, you see how serious I take, like, this who counts as a companion shit? Like, now I have to deal with who counts as an actual Doctor? Like, how do you do that? God damn it. Shit.
Alright. For now, can we just call him the 10th Doctor and talk about him?
Fine, sure.
I love David Tennant. What do you think about David Tennant?
He's fucking great. Like, he's has such an infectious personality to him. Of
Yes.
like he's so. I mean, he has like these broody, mopey moments, like obviously, and a lot of them are really over the top and melodramatic. Not David Tennant's fault. It's like the writing in this section just gets really soapy and just like.
Oh, it also gets better as it goes along.
Yeah, it gets better, but like at sections, it's really over the top to me. But like when he's not being overly mopey, like he has so much energy and happiness to him, and like that immense
wisdom.
Immense wisdom, and then sometimes really over the top immense power, and like that messianic, like I am literally Jesus, like lift me up to the heavens.
Oh, it also happens in the 3rd season finale.
Yeah.
So, the 10th Doctor era, I was writing about this a little bit today in this Doctor Who feature I did on the site. Because I think the 10th Doctor characterization is messy, because I think Russell T Davies and the 9th Doctor, they found a center to hang that character around.
Yeah.
And I think Stephen Moffat has very much done that with Matt Smith.
Yeah.
Matt Smith is centered. That's never been a problem with him. You don't have any question of who this characterization is.
Yeah.
That's never been a problem in the 11th Doctor era. With the 10th Doctor era, it's erratic. And it's erratic from a storytelling standpoint because the 2nd season of the show is not very good.
Yeah. Overall, yeah.
Let's just get it out of the way now. They drive Rose into the ground and beat her to death, metaphorically, because...
If only they had done it literally.
Because it sucks so bad, because you look at those first couple episodes of the 2nd season, and I don't necessarily think they're great, but I think David Tennant and Billy Piper have awesome chemistry.
Yeah, they have a good chemistry, yeah.
It's fun. I like their stuff where they're making fun of the Queen in the episode.
Yeah, the werewolf one.
Yeah. There's some fun stuff there. But then it has to become Rose falls in love with the Doctor, and he has to fucking reciprocate it in a weird way.
A way that's just not... It doesn't... Especially if you have watched everything else that happened before it in a way that's just like, what? How? Like the 8th Doctor stuff was weird, but at least that was like his regeneration story, and this is like fucking what it is his only story. So whatever. Like Grace Holloway, I don't give a shit that he kissed Grace Holloway at the end of the TV movie. Fucking, like, he said he was half human in that movie. Like,
he was clearly out of his mind.
Yeah, exactly. Like, that's fucking crazy bullshit. We are moving on. The 10th Doctor, like, this is where I'm saying, like, it gets over the top with, like, the mopey sappiness of just, like, oh, for God's sakes, dude. Like, you have seen shit. This is, like, whatever, dude. Like, this is, in the scope of stuff, this is nothing. Like, why are you pining over this fucking, like, teenage London girl? Like, what?
Yeah.
It's fucking Twilight, It's like this, it's not, no. It's not Doctor Who.
Let me give the spiel.
Sure.
If someone has lived for however long the Doctor's lived for, we don't know exactly, it's a long time.
Yes.
And the other thing I think to consider is that in the history of the show, William Hartnell's Doctor probably is the longest lived Doctor, because he had a full life.
Arguing about how, like, regenerations and physically aging work, that's another can of worms.
Okay.
Because I would say the 4th Doctor, like, just by the sheer fact of, like, how long his actual tenure was, he would be the longest lived Doctor.
Okay.
By consideration.
Never mind.
You're not getting into this shit.
Okay. All I was going to say, though, is that he had a life outside of all this.
Yeah, without a doubt. I mean, he has a fucking granddaughter.
Right. So he had a family, he had this stuff, but I think there's also this idea we see in real life where at a certain age, things like love and sex stop being important to you.
Yes.
And I think the Doctor is pretty far fucking past that point.
Yeah, like, it stretches the believability past breaking point for me of, like, you have William Hartnell, Patrick Troughton, John Pertwee, Tom Baker, Peter Davison, Colin Baker, Sylvester McCoy, Paul McGann's kind of a weird situation, and then Christopher Eccleston. Like, all of those, like, none of those incarnations of the Doctor would have, like, a fraction of the type of feeling that the 10th Doctor, like, obviously expresses for Rose. Like, it just makes no sense if you look at it. Like, the only, like, maybe you could buy Peter Davison's a little bit, but that's because Peter Davison was, like, 28 when he was playing the Doctor, so it's like, it makes a little bit more sense. But, like, none of the other ones, it's like, fucking no. Like, Patrick Troughton, like, the 2nd Doctor, like, that same character, like, technically being in a romantic situation, like it wouldn't be like he gets older and now he's more predisposed to romance. Like, that makes no sense.
No.
Like, he gets further away from that, if nothing else. To like, the 4th Doctor being in a romantic relationship, how can you ever see that? Like, it's
well, and
makes
you know,
no sense.
They do some quasi-romantic things with the Matt Smith era, but when you go to Matt Smith, they clearly do a degradation where he doesn't know how to act around women.
Yeah. And then at least with, like, the River Song stuff justifies itself more with, like, the fact that she's, like, half Time Lord bullshit.
We'll talk about that, but I think with the 10th Doctor, it's, when I say messy characterization, it's stuff where the Rose side of it goes too far, and they ruin Rose as a character because of it, which is sad. I mean, the episode I will always cite as being the low point of modern Who in terms of a thematic sense is the Devil Pit one.
Oh yeah, that's
that's the one where he loses the TARDIS and he's resigned himself to live with Rose now and be there for each other, and that's
fucking
wrong.
You know, John Pertwee was driven near to the point of madness of just being stuck on Earth for like 2 years. You know,
and I just don't, because what is he thinking is going to happen there? She is a blip to him.
Yeah, exactly.
And see, this thing is, we're not disrespecting, you know, Rose or humans with this. It's just, he's a different species. He's he sees time differently.
Yeah, and he has seen time differently for a long time at this point.
So it's just stuff like that doesn't make sense. I do think there are certain elements to the 10th Doctor's romantic side that, had they explored them differently, and I think good hints of this come in, for me particularly, the Stephen Moffat episode, The Girl in the Fireplace. If you explored it like it's explored in that, where the 10th Doctor is a romantic in the sense that he romanticizes things, he romanticizes history, he romanticizes his own legacy, he is desperate for companionship because he is lonely and broken, and these sorts of things, that is interesting, and I think they hone in on that more as David Tennant's run goes along.
Yeah, like with like Donna in particular, like the Doctor isn't looking for a wife or like a love interest. Like he's looking for someone to share the universe with in a way that's like beyond like some sort of like physical desire thing, you know?
Right. And so, like, I'll talk about this episode later, but the Girl in the Fireplace, it's Madame de Pompadour. It's not that he wants to fuck Madame de Pompadour. Yeah. It's that this is someone he romanticizes and he wants to share things with because she sees the world the way he sees it.
Yeah.
And that's interesting to me. And I think, the 10th Doctor, there is some fascinating characterization with him. You look at the End of Time Part 2 and what they do with him there, and I wrote about this today. I think it actually, his last episode contextualizes some of the messier elements.
Yeah.
It kind of retroactively contextualizes. It doesn't fix things, but it's interesting in how it contextualizes. But yeah, it's a messy characterization. It could be great at times. It could be less great at times. David Tennant is always great. There's nothing he plays poorly. And he is a phenomenal Doctor, and you understand why he has inspired annoying amounts of fan love.
Yeah. Because he has this, like, I don't know, like it just makes me think of Angel from, like, Buffy and Angel, like that like type of, like he's like the broken Doctor, and there's, like, nothing that fangirls like more than, like, this, like, dark, broody male character that's kind of quirky, but, like, needs someone to fix them, you know?
But, okay, so the 10th Doctor, though, has one of the... For the modern series, he has a very sort of eclectic set of companions.
Yeah, he does.
And a really fun one. I think, I love how later in his run, sometimes they went too far with it, but when you could bring the companions together and have fun seeing how he revisits some of them, this could be interesting. And you more in seeing just how much of a legacy that Doctor leaves on people. But, like, he has Rose, Sarah Jane comes back and interacts with him some.
Yeah.
But the other two main companions he has, and they did something cool in this run where each season he has a different companion.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah, me too.
So his second companion is Martha, Freema Agyeman. I like Martha.
Yeah, she's okay. Like she's not like a remarkable companion, but she's good.
Yeah, and I think
she's not Mel.
She's certainly not Mel.
Yeah.
She's not even on that spectrum. She's not on that side of the spectrum.
Yeah.
She's a good companion. She has good moments. She has episodes where she's fantastic, actually. They also do dumb stuff with her at the end.
Yes, they do.
But they do dumb stuff because season 3 has a bad ending.
Yeah, I mean, but
we get the Master back. Sean, you like the Master in this run?
Oh, God, let's not talk about that. Like, fucking Roger Delgado and Anthony Ainley were so fucking great as the Master, and then you have to just ruin him with fucking that,
Okay.
The Master's not the Joker. He's Moriarty, And Moriarty also happens not to be the Joker, Stephen Moffat, so... God fucking... I forgot that that's the... I mean, Stephen Moffat didn't write... No. Yeah, the Master, that's right, but still.
Yeah. All right.
It feels like he did at some points with what he did to Moriarty.
Yes. But in any case, his last companion is Donna. Donna is his best companion.
Yes, yeah.
Catherine Tate, you would not necessarily have expected to work on Doctor Who this well. And I don't... you look at The Runaway Bride, And Donna is not immediately great. It's not until she comes back for Series 4, which is the most consistent run of Russell T Davies episodes. Season 4 is just good throughout. Mm-hmm. There's nothing in Season 4 to me that is like the highest high, but it's just so consistent.
But there's nothing that's just like, oh god,
there's
why
no,
is this here?
There's no Love and Monsters blowjob slap.
Yeah, exactly. There's no dark pit of despair that you have to throw yourself into to get into the next episode, you know?
No.
Oh man.
So Donna's awesome.
Yes.
And Donna has a sad fucking ending.
Yeah, she does.
They kind of reversed it later on to a certain degree, but man, the end of Journey's End, whatever problems that episode has,
it has problems.
A really good ending where her mind is wiped and she basically loses all character development. And then David Tennant has a great scene at the end there where he's in the TARDIS and he's just fucking angry.
Yeah.
And I love that. And just they do some really interesting stuff with the 10th Doctor at the end.
Yeah.
But then he regenerates into an awesome Doctor.
Yes.
He regenerates into the current Doctor, the 11th Doctor, Matt Smith. You know, a lot of people were like, oh, Matt Smith, this young guy, fucking... And then he comes on screen in the 11th hour and you're like, fuck yeah. Matt Smith.
Yes, he's fucking awesome.
Yes. I feel like we're going to talk about Matt Smith more soon.
Yeah. We don't need to go into depth with him. So
no, just so you guys know, Christmas time we'll do a Matt Smith episode because we're on the ground floor for this one. So we'll send him out.
Yeah. We can't start talking about a Doctor until it's time to go. His era is ongoing yet. So,
but it's been good so far.
Yeah, it's not time to close the book.
It's been good so far.
Yep.
So that brings us to the present day.
To today.
Man, 50 years of the show. A lot of good stuff.
Yeah.
Some bad stuff.
There was the Twin Dilemma. There was Love and Monsters. There's
All
Warriors of the Deep. That's a bad one.
So, Sean, before we get into this other thing that we're going to do, which is the best episodes.
Yes.
I want to do part of our lightning round now, and I just want to...
Okay, yeah.
I want to face it to you. What is the worst episode of Doctor Who?
Fucking shit. Okay,
I can answer this for Modern Who.
Well, we all...
It's so obvious.
I mean, Love and Monsters might be the worst. Like,
okay.
it is in that level.
Yes.
Like, which is spectacular if you take into account... Like, not even just, like, taking fucking modern or classic Doctor Who at, like, modern value.
Yeah.
Like, even then, Love and Monsters is that fucking bad. Like, that's how bad that episode is.
If you don't remember, Love and Monsters is their Dr. Light episode, the bad one, not the good one.
Yeah, it's not Blink.
Yeah, where it's so the Doctor's not in it, and then there's this guy, and he's trying to find out shit about the Doctor, and then his girlfriend gets turned into a slab and gives him blowjobs.
And there's fucking what are they? The Absorbaloff. That's the alien. That's the name of the alien in that episode. Is the Absorbaloff. And I've watched shit in Doctor Who with things called Sensorites and the Zarbi, and fucking Absorbaloff is literally the stupidest alien Doctor Who has ever seen.
All right.
In 50 years. Absorbaloff is the worst villain.
What is Love and Monsters competition?
Okay, like talked about earlier, the Twin Dilemma, the Sixth Doctor's first episode or first serial, I guess I should say, is bad. It is nigh intolerable. Like, it is, like, two of the main characters, the eponymous twins named Romulus and Remus, because there's really no thematic connection there. They just wanted to name them off of the mythical founders of Rome. They are fucking, how Jake Lloyd is really bad in episode 1 of Phantom Menace?
Yeah.
Well, imagine if Jake Lloyd tried to raise two babies and teach them how to act. That is how good the twins are in the Twin Dilemma. That is the level of acting they possess, is as if they were taught their entire life by Jake Lloyd. Like, episode 1, like, circa Jake Lloyd, how to act. That is their level of acting.
Is that the cruelest thing you've ever said about another human being?
Probably. That it is, and it is well deserved. I'm sure they are nice people. They should not be acting. They should never have been acting. Their performances are so bad. And then just outside of that, the Twin Dilemma is just boring. It is so fucking boring that I can't tell you what the fuck else happens in that episode. I remember how it begins because the first episode is okay. At least it's interesting in the fact that it's the Sixth Doctor's first appearance. But then as soon as it moves past that first episode, it is just unbearable. unbearably bad. Then after the other bad episodes, you've got the Seventh Doctor's first one, Time in the Ronnie. I think that's one time. It's one of the Ronnie episodes.
It's called Time in the Ronnie.
Okay,
I watched the first scene
today.
Okay,
yeah, it's not. That one's not good.
Okay.
That gets special points also for having the regeneration that is Sylvester McCoy dressed up in Colin Baker's outfit. Like at the beginning of the episode, the Ronnie is a villainous time lady. She's like attacking the TARDIS, and he gets his head hit on the TARDIS console, collapses to the ground, rolls over, and surprise! It was Sylvester McCoy in a wig the entire time.
They do a little regeneration.
Yeah, there's a little bit, but it's not. It's fucking cheesy, and that episode's just really boring. But like,
so none of these intros are not on par with the 11th hour.
Yeah, no, yeah,
okay.
But then you also get, and this was probably because one of the problems is with a lot of classic Doctor Who that like the bad episodes are just really unmemorable. Also, like it's just like they're so dull. That's part of what makes them really bad. But then you've got Warrior. I'm pretty sure it's Warriors of the Deep. There's a lot of Doctor Who stories, so I get a lot of the names are very similar. But I'm pretty sure it's Warriors of the Deep. Regardless, it's the fucking Silurian, the sea Silurians. What do they call them? Like the sea monsters. Those dudes, the Silurians from the sea. Their last appearance in a Fifth Doctor special or the Fifth Doctor serial that has literally, I think they paid for the budget of that serial with a piece of bubblegum. Like I think that is all they had. It is, and it's sad because like it's not like the script isn't utterly terrible. I mean, it's bad. It's got a good scene, a good really sad scene at the end where everybody's just dead, and the Fifth Doctor's like, well, fuck. Like, I did not solve this situation this time. It's like the exact opposite of the Doctor dances. Like, everybody lives. It's like, oh, shit. Everybody suffocated and died. Oh, God. This is terrific. But then outside of that, it's just like it is the cheap, like, it looks like it was filmed by, like, a group of high school students. You know, it is so cheap.
And classic Doctor Who looks pretty cheap.
Yeah, it looks cheap. It is not on that level. Like, there's this big monster thing that, like, that's probably, I don't think it's a puppet, but whatever it is not a convincing special effect. Not in the slightest.
So gun to your head, what is the worst?
I'm going to say the Twin Dilemma, just for particularly how awful of a start it is for a Doctor, how boring it is, how terrible the acting is, and then the way, like, historically, like, it sets this unbelievably awful and sour tone for, like, the entire Six Doctors era that, like, they did not recover from. And then also, its baffling contrast to what is undoubtedly one of the best episodes of Doctor Who ever made, which is Caves of Androzani. Like, the Twin Dilemma, in contrast to that, like, gem of a masterpiece, is so terrible. It's so utterly bad that I think it overcomes Love and Monsters. Like, but Love and Monsters is in second place, I would give it. So
okay. So you want to talk about some good episodes?
Yes, let's move. I don't want to think about these anymore, so yeah, let's move on.
Alright, so Sean, we, instead of just talking about our best episodes, we structured this a little more. You made a list of the top 10 classic Who episodes. Yeah. I made a list of the top 10 modern Who episodes. I had fun doing mine. This was a nice walk down memory lane. You expressed frustration.
Mine was, making my list was stressful. Like, I just sent you my 10.
Yeah.
I have a list that is, like, the list is 30 episodes, but
serials.
making that, 30 serials, but making that was, like, I had to cross off probably, like, 20 more that were, like, this one is so fucking good, but it's not going to make the top 10. But there were legitimately 30 ones all vying for position for, like, to be in the top 10 somewhere that I had to cut down to only 10.
Well, let's
heartbreaking. Fucking heartbreaking.
Let's look at him.
Fuck you for doing that to me.
I'm sorry. Let's look at him, Sean. Do you want to do an honorable mention or two before you start?
There's two. There'd be too many. I wouldn't stop giving honorable mentions if you just opened that door up for me.
Then that's why we're limiting it to 10. Tell us, Sean, what is your 10th favorite Doctor Who episode?
Okay, so the one I picked for my number 10 is An Unearthly Child, and that is literally just that episode too. Like, this is because its relationship to its serial is kind of weird. But An Unearthly Child is the first episode of the show, and in my opinion is still one of its best. Like, not even just for its historical value, but almost like it plays a lot like an episode of The Twilight Zone in like the best way possible. And I've seen An Unearthly Child probably 4 or 5 times at this point, and I still love watching it because it's such a strong introduction into the show. And another reason I picked it was honestly that I was like paring stuff down, and I absolutely needed to have a First Doctor story on there because, again, I think the First Doctor's run is fucking phenomenal. Like, even just regardless of it, like me like being nostalgic for it being the first, like, it is just really, really good. And I think An Unearthly Child boils that down, especially in the relationships between Susan, the Doctor, Barbara, and Ian are so strong and stark and powerful, and then just the idea is so fucking genius that seeing its inception is amazing. So, yeah.
I like this one, too. I remember one of my fondest Doctor Who viewing memories is when you and I were hanging out.
Yeah.
We had another friend with us.
Yes.
She'll go unnamed.
Yes.
Yes.
The unnamed one.
Yes. Not that I just...
Let's call her She of Purple Hair. That's all that needs to be mentioned.
We're not saying bad things about She of Purple Hair. It's just very dear friend. But it was... Sean wanted to show me Unearthly Child. I'm like, I'm up for this shit.
Well, I mean, I remember like earlier that day, like because we were like driving somewhere, I think, to get pizza, and we had started talking about Doctor Who.
Yeah.
And She of Purple Hair had expressed interest in Doctor Who because she'd seen like some like random episodes, but not a whole lot. And then the can of worms got opened up of like me talking about like, well, I have seen all of them, and when I say all of them, I mean all of them that exist. And so we were talking about, like, well, maybe we should watch some Doctor Who while we eat this pizza. And I was like, well, I have all of them that I have acquired through some legal and some maybe dubious means. But it's fair because some of them you can't legally acquire. But, so, we have a wide selection to pick from. And, you know, the easy choice would have been, well, let's just watch, like, a David Tennant episode. Because I think that's what she really, like, expressed the most interest in. But I was like, fuck that shit. If we're going to start watching Doctor Who, we're going to start watching Doctor Who. We're not doing any of this baby start with like Rose or just like a good episode like Blink. Like, fuck that. That's not how you start. You start November 23rd, 1960 motherfucking 3 with An Unearthly Child. That's where it starts. That's where you start watching as far as I'm concerned.
And I just remember so clearly, you started it. You had like a giddy grin on your face because you loved this episode.
Yeah, every time I watch this episode, I have the biggest fucking smile on my face.
I loved it because I'm fascinated by this episode. It's amazing. It's fascinating.
It's so good.
Just that it fucking starts with the teachers out of compassion and love in their hearts trying to figure out what's going on with Susan and getting kidnapped by a crazy old coot.
Yeah.
Great start to a 50-year-long show.
Yeah, it fucking is.
And then you go back in time and you watch this caveman politics.
Yes, you do.
And you and I were transfixed by this, and She of Purple Hair didn't really get it.
Yeah, it was...
Which, fair enough, but...
Yeah, I will not look down upon any human who, when faced with An Unearthly Child and then the beginning of 10,000 BC, is not able to fully comprehend its majesty. Like, that's fair enough. It's only for select visionaries like ourselves.
But An Unearthly Child is a ton of fun. If you've never seen it, it's on YouTube. Check it out. On 50th anniversary day, you gotta do it.
Yeah, I definitely will be.
Yeah.
It's so fun.
I'm gonna do that tomorrow too, probably before the 50th special.
Yeah.
So, alright, Sean, what's your number 9?
Okay, so my number 9 was The Three Doctors, which this is the original multi-doctor story, and I fucking love this episode. It is, or the serial, it is so fucking good. Like, one, because, you know, I really like John Pertwee, but if there's anything better than just watching an episode of Doctor Who with John Pertwee in it, it's when you get the long-anticipated return of the greatest Doctor of all time, Patrick Troughton, and seeing those two, like, in many ways opposite, but equally awesome Doctors just interacting and playing off of one another like the most bizarre buddy cop movie ever seen. That is a winning goddamn combination as far as I am concerned.
It's awesome. I have not finished watching The Three Doctors, but I started, this serial, watching it for this list, and it's, for one, it feels utterly modern in a lot of ways.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, it's paced really well.
Yeah. But man, just, you get Patrick Troughton in there, his introduction is so great, and he and John Pertwee, sparks fly.
Yeah, they do.
It's great.
Yeah, and it's like their chemistry is so great that even when you eventually get the 5 Doctors, which that's like kind of a misnomer because Tom Baker is they took a shot from an unaired Tom Baker episode and put it in there to justify calling it the Five Doctors, and then William Hartnell had passed away at that point, so they had another actor basically playing the first Doctor. But even with all of that, like, you know, the core of the Five Doctors, even though you've got fucking Anthony Ainley's Master and you've got Peter Davison and you've got like a whole gaggle of companions, it's still really all about the bromance between John Pertwee and Patrick Troughton in that story. So
it's great. And this was the 10th anniversary celebration.
Yeah. And you know, it should be like William Hartnell at that point was becoming old and noticeably ill, so he wasn't able to like fully participate. So that's why it's mostly just John Pertwee and Patrick Troughton. But when he shows up,
it's great.
It's fucking great. He calls them a clown and a dandy, which is still that is how you describe Patrick Troughton's Doctor is a clown. John Pertwee's is a dandy. Like that is all you need.
And he's like this disapproving grandfather.
Yeah, exactly. And then even on top of that, like it's really interesting as sort of like a historical episode of Doctor Who in that looking at how it expanded the mythology of the show so much and that it really brought in a lot of the Time Lord stuff. The whole plot of the show, or of the serial, is that Omega, who is an ancient Time Lord, he's the guy who basically has created enough power through like this whole like black hole shit to allow the Time Lords to travel through time, that he, inside of his black hole, has created an antimatter universe that is like fucking everything up, and so the Time Lords send the Doctor in to take care of it. But it's not just the Doctor. They're like, one Doctor is not enough to take care of one of the most badass Time Lords in all of history. We need two of the most badass Time Lords in all of history to take out that motherfucker. So then they bring in Patrick Troughton. And then having them go and do the antimatter world, then Brigadier and Sergeant Benton go with them, Sarah Jane... I think Sarah Jane's in it. No, Joe's in it. Joe Grant's in it. It's just...
And Joe Grant has the best Doctor Who joke of all fucking time. Yeah, I love it.
It's a good episode. Omega is one of the show's most memorable villains for me. Particularly, the end is really great with him. And it's... Three Doctors is real good. So... And watching the Three Doctors is like one of the reasons why I'm really excited for this one. Because if
the 50th anniversary.
Yeah, for the 50th anniversary. That if Matt Smith and David Tennant can capture even just like fraction of the amazing chemistry that Patrick Troughton and John Pertwee had, that we will have a fantastic episode on our hands very soon.
Yep. Almost nothing else matters because the Three Doctors, it almost feels like the good plot and everything else is just icing on the cake.
Yeah, exactly. Like, yeah, even if Omega wasn't awesome and like the mythological elements weren't also really interesting, just having them together is so fucking good.
Yep. All right.
It is the staple of multi-Doctor stories going forward. So
number 8.
Yes, my number 8 story. This is a 7th Doctor one. We've got Remembrance of the Daleks, which is...
And this is your only of the Daleks one, so this is your favorite Dalek story.
Well, yeah. Like the only real competition is probably Genesis of the Daleks. While I think the Daleks are good villains, in general, their episodes tend not to actually be all that great.
Like, a trend the modern series.
Yeah, the modern series is like one really fucking good Dalek story, some other like, kind of okay ones, and then
Evolution of the Daleks.
Yes.
Remember that one?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
Yeah, but Remembrance of the Daleks is... It's the last classic Who Dalek story. This is the one where the 7th Doctor fucking blows up Skaro. And yes, that is fucking awesome. But Remembrance of the Daleks is also... I don't remember if it's actually an anniversary episode. It might be, but it's where the Doctor brings Ace back to 1963, back to London, back to like the junkyard where he had the TARDIS originally, and revisits Coles Hill School, which is the school that Susan attended, that Ian and Barbara were from, and it's all revolving around the like going back to the stuff that Three Doctors introduced, the Hand of Omega, which is what Omega used to make the black hole and like all that shit. It reveals that the first Doctor took that, and the reason why he was on Earth, or one of the reasons, was that he hid it somewhere on Earth, and so he's going back there to retrieve it. And then in doing so, like, it gets wrapped up in like a Dalek civil war where the Davros Daleks are fighting like the Imperial Daleks, and it's this crazy whole series of events that is just awesome. The 7th Doctor is at his like Machiavellian best because he's playing these like two Dalek sides against one another, while also trying to figure out what has happened with the Hand of Omega. And then also, Ace, who, as I said earlier, is one of my favorite companions because she is so good, like such a great pair with the Seventh Doctor. She's fucking awesome in this episode because she beats the shit out of a Dalek with a fucking baseball bat.
I cannot wait to see this.
That is how cool Ace is, and she blows up a Dalek with her like explosive shit that she has. And then, yeah, at the end, the Seventh Doctor uses the Hand of Omega to blow up Skaro and basically kill every single Dalek that exists until, that... Wow. I have talked before on this podcast about how it makes no sense, like all the shit they've done with Skaro and Dalek since then. But, regardless of that fact, this episode is fucking great. And icing on the cake, any fan of Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, Jeffrey, the butler from Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, that actor makes a cameo. Well, not a cameo, he's a character in this story as an awesome, really suave bartender dude who the Doctor goes to for advice.
That sounds awesome.
Yes, it is a good fucking story of Doctor Who, so that is why it's on my list.
I have sadly not seen this one.
Yeah, it's one that I also think, like, with the three Doctors, it feels very modern, so I think it's also one of the more accessible ones.
Nice.
So, yeah.
What's your number 7?
Okay, my number 7, this is the first Patrick Troughton story on this list, is The War Games. It also happens to be Patrick Troughton's last story and the longest surviving story of Doctor Who. It's tied with The Daleks' Master Plan, which is the other really fucking long one. But The War Games is an epic. Like, The War Games goes everywhere, where it starts with, the basic premise is that all these different sort of like civilizations, and most of them like these warring civilizations, have kind of all been thrown together in this weird sort of like spatial time plane, and they're all fighting each other in this like never-ending war, and that's what the War Games are. And then the Doctor and then Zoe and Jamie land there, and then the Doctor has to figure out what's going on with all this shit. And it's like a super complex plot. And this is the story where the sonic screwdriver is first introduced, where it is used as a screwdriver to unscrew, I think it's like a screw on a gun or something that he has to do something with. So, if you want to know where the sonic screwdriver comes from, this is the story to go to. Where it actually just kind of looks like a pin light, because I'm pretty sure it was just a pin light and not a even real prop at the time. But then outside of that, like, just Patrick Troughton is so good in this story, and it goes so many places that eventually he like ends up on this like ship that like these different like these aliens that are organizing these war games or whatever. And then one of the people on the ship is this guy called the War Master that people a lot of Doctor Who fans like to argue about whether or not this character is actually the Master or not. Like, he's clearly a prototypical version of who the Master would then be. But the War Master is the first other Time Lord you are ever introduced into in the series. And so you should remember that when I was watching, the way I watched this show, I had no fucking clue about anything. Like, I did not know what Time Lords were when I was watching it, because I hadn't watched any of the modern stuff at all.
So you watched it like someone in 1963.
Yeah, so when Time Lords are introduced in the show, that is when Time Lords, that concept is introduced to me. So, like, the first time the Doctor hints at the fact that this guy that is, like, helping organize these war games is another member of his race, that's, like, such a crazy moment. And then the Doctor has this... It's a really sad episode too, because what the Doctor has to do is, once he like realizes there is no other way to fix the situation to keep these war games from happening, and the massive complexity of the situation he's thrown is that there's no way he can use the TARDIS to get all these people that have been collected together back to their respective times and their respective like places in history. And so to solve the situation, he creates a little psychic box out of cards, which is then this like concept is reintroduced in The Doctor's Wife, the Neil Gaiman episode. And he creates a psychic message and sends it out to the Time Lords, and the Time Lords take care of the situation. But fans of the show might recall that the original stories are all centered around the fact that the Doctor fled his race in exile, and that because he stole his TARDIS, and so the Time Lords learn where the Second Doctor is, and so the Second Doctor knowingly reveals his position to save all these different people, knowing that he will be captured, and then the Time Lords, after they have captured him, force him to regenerate and then force him into exile on Earth to begin the Third Doctor's era.
I did not know there was that much continuity involved
there. There's usually isn't in Doctor Who, and that's one of the reasons why I really like this serial, is because it gives this great sense of like this big epic spanning story arc that is so fitting as an end to the Second Doctor, that like the decision he has to make feels very organic, and that like this is what would have to leave this awesome fucking character to give up his position and to have to regenerate into the Third Doctor. It's one of my favorite regenerations because it's so weird and different from all the other ones. Like the idea of regeneration wasn't even fully cemented yet because this is only the second one. And yeah, the War Games is fascinating. Patrick Troughton's great in it, and it just goes so many places, and there's so much, especially if being like a fan of the mythological elements of the series. Like, this is one of the most important serials in all of Doctor Who history, and that's one of the reasons I love it.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's a fun one to watch, even if it's real fucking. It's like longer than Return of the King to watch all of it. So, yeah,
watch it in chunks, episode a day.
Yeah, exactly.
You know,
fuck that. Watch it all in one goddamn sitting. Like, no bathroom breaks, no eating. Just sit down and fucking watch it.
I think you might die.
Probably yes.
Number 6.
Okay, my number 6 story is The Time Warrior, a Third Doctor story. And I know you've seen this one.
I love The Time Warrior so much.
Yeah, because we, on a previous podcast, a very, very long time ago. It was before WGCC Radio, right? We did
long before. This was 3 podcasts ago.
Yeah, 3 of our iterations of the podcast ago, I made my favorite stories for each of the Doctors. That most of those have changed at this point. But my choice then for my favorite Third Doctor story was The Time Warrior. That still stands. Time Warrior, real fucking good.
I love the Sontarans.
Yeah,
and this is such a great intro.
Yeah, this is the first introduction to the Sontarans, who are one of my favorite aliens, partially because they are not overused in Doctor Who. But yeah, you have links here, and then the basic plot of the Time Warrior is that stuff is being pulled from modern day, like, okay, 1970s London or 1980s, because unit timeline is fucking weird. But the like stuff has just been disappearing, and so they call in the Doctor to figure out what's going on. This is also Sarah Jane's first full episode, and so or first full serial, and so she's introduced here as a reporter, also investigating these like mysterious disappearances. And what they discover is that these disappearances are actually a Sontaran, Lynx, in the past, who has crash landed, pulling things from the future in order to help repair his ship, and he's pulling scientists to help work on his ship to repair it, so he can leave and rejoin the Sontaran battle fleet and get back to doing what Sontarans do, which is just kill shit. But yeah, so he like Lynx holes up in basically underneath a castle that is ruled by this like bandit chief and like his guys, and so it's all about like the Doctor and Sarah Jane having to find some way to infiltrate this bandit's castle and like get to Lynx and defeat him and find a way to get back to their own time, and it is real cool. It has their Doctor is real badass in it too.
It sure is, and it has one of those elements that the best Doctor Who serials have, where it's multifaceted enough to really sustain that runtime.
Yeah.
Because not only do you have the Sontaran and the Doctor and Sarah Jane stuff, but that dynamic between the warring factions in the past is really cool. Mm-hmm. That you were talking about. There's a lot going on there. And if you a lot of people love the character Strax these days. Yeah. If you love Strax, you really do owe it to yourself to watch The Time Warrior.
Yeah.
The origins of the Sontarans.
Yeah, Lynx is real fucking cool. He's a really good villain.
Yep, Lynx is great.
Yeah, so, yeah, The Time Warrior. It's another one of those ones that is like, if you want to get into classic Doctor Who, that is definitely one of the stories to go watch, because it definitely holds up today.
And this is one of the few ones that is on iTunes.
Oh, yeah.
So go grab it. Really easy to get. Mm-hmm. Number 5.
Okay, my number 5 story, City of Death, which is... every time I see City of Death, it takes me seconds. It's like that title is not very descriptive of the episode, but a City of Death. It is one of the Fourth Doctor stories, and it's actually one of Romana 2. So it's Lalla Ward this time. She's the companion, and it's the only it's the second full serial to be written by Douglas Adams. This is the part of the show where he was like sort of half the primary script editor. There's the previous episode written by Douglas Adams was The Pirate Planet, and that episode features K9 fighting a robotic parrot. So
I have to see this.
That was on my list of 30. But yeah, City of Death is, if you want to watch a Fourth Doctor story like City of Death, that is definitely one of the ones to go pick up, because it is really tense. It's really interesting. It's got a really complex plot that all revolves around this alien that you don't realize is an alien yet, who's stealing art, and he steals the Mona Lisa, but he's actually like having Leonardo da Vinci in the past like make a bunch of Mona Lisas for him, and he's like taking them. It's a really long, really complex plot, but it's really intricate, and it is fucking hilarious, as you would expect from a Douglas Adams story. But it's not just a straight comedy. Like it's really funny. The writing is super sharp, but it's still a dramatic plot. It's like a proper like dramatic episode of Doctor Who on top of it. And it all ends with an explanation about how humans came to be in the first place, which is like the third time Doctor Who had done it at this point. But it's a pretty good one.
Which one's your favorite?
It's next. This is probably my favorite.
Okay.
He fights the alien in the past, and like them fighting next to the primordial ooze or whatever is like what gives like the energy that started life. Like it's all bullshit. But
Okay.
John Cleese also has a cameo at the end, at the very end of the 4th episode too.
I gotta see this.
He and it's there's another. She's a pretty famous British comedian of the time, but I can't remember her name. But he's talking to her, and they're commenting about the TARDIS as being like a piece of modern art because the Doctor has landed in an art museum.
That's awesome.
It's really good.
That's so awesome.
The City of Death it's a really, really good story. It's my 5th favorite story, so I obviously highly recommend it. But seriously, I highly recommend it. If you want to watch more 4th Doctor stuff, fucking go watch that one, because that one's real good.
Alright.
Okay, now moving on. This is my number 4. We get another Tom Baker story. This is Talons of Wang Chiang. Like, Jonathan, you have also seen this one.
Yep. It is also available on iTunes. I own it.
It is, and this one's fucking awesome, because half of it is basically like a Sherlock Holmes story. Like, because the Doctor, this is one of the very few stories that features the 4th Doctor not actually wearing a scarf, like I think at all. And this is Leela is the companion here that we never really talked about, but she's not a very interesting companion, but she's good here. And then basically it's this long detective story about that fucking, when you get to the end and you find out like all the shit about the Wang Chiang stuff, and like who this guy who's like, he's this time agent, like it ties into modern Who stuff with Captain Jack Harkness, like it ties into that kind of like very light mythological elements. But like this whole situation that comes down where it's like the 4th Doctor has finally figured out who this guy is and has to confront him at the end, is like, that's where you see like how powerful and charismatic and magnetic the 4th Doctor is. Of like, he confronts this dude who is like a civil, like he was fighting in this like civil war in the future or whatever. He's basically a massive war criminal. The Doctor doesn't give a fuck, because the Doctor's like, I've been on these battlefields just like you. Like, I have seen these wars because I'm the fucking Doctor. Like, he's old. This is where the Doctor has been old enough at this point that they can just kind of throw in comments about like places he has been that you have not seen and you can buy. It's like, okay, yeah, like he has seen this shit. And like he fights this he's got that cool little like homunculus dude. He's like this little, I mean, there's an elephant in the room with this episode that is also kind of uncomfortably racist in a lot of places with the portrayal of Asians, because one of the main villains, who's like this like Asian magician dude, not played by a Chinese dude. He's played by a British dude in yellowface, but still a good episode. Still a really good story. It's
just one of those.
It's one of those things. That it's like, you know, it's like if you watch The Searchers, which is like the John Wayne movie, which is one of the best movies ever made. You have to get past the fact that, not all the Native American characters are played by Native Americans, and some places that feels really weird.
Hey, we still do that today. Johnny Depp, Lone Ranger.
Yeah, well, at least The Searchers is a really good fucking movie.
Yes.
And Talons of Wang Chiang is a really good fucking story, so it's got enough going for it that...
Yeah.
It's...
And you know what, though? That character, despite all that, I actually like that character.
Yeah, he's a good character.
Villain.
Like, once you get past, like, that kind of, like, modern awkwardness around it, he's a good villain. The fucking, and this is just another situation where this is a story written by Robert Holmes, who is one of the I mean, Robert Holmes also wrote The Time Warrior. He is easily one of the best, in my opinion, he is the best writer Doctor Who has ever had. Like, most of the stories that were on my like 30 that did not quite make it up there were ones written by him, like The Rivals Operation or The Power of Kroll, that are really fucking good stories. That's like, Robert Holmes knew how to write the Doctor, knew how to write that like just really great, really fast, really clever dialogue, and also keeping a really interesting, intricate plot. And it's his episodes are the ones that you always feel like, going back and watching them, that he had such a great sense of pace and used the episodic format of Doctor Who at the time to its advantage, instead of like just making a big movie and cutting it up. Like, it's just, it feels right. It feels like it flows, and it uses its time well. So by the time you get to the end of the story, you feel like you've gone on this long journey, that you have gone through this ridiculous like series of deductions and stuff. And then he's also just got great villains and side characters. Like, there's this one sort of like Watson-y character who follows the Doctor around and like is this very like sort of like parodies the Sherlock Holmes, or like your impression of Sherlock Holmes of like the deduction type stuff, that like this dude knows nothing about what's going on and just like buys into the Doctor's like ability to deduce things, even though
that character.
Yeah, even though the Doctor's never says anything usually that amazing or impressive. He's just kind of making shit up, and then the dude's just like, "Oh, you solved that through the powers of deduction. I see you're a real detective inspector of Scotland Yard." It's like, it's really great stuff. So yeah, Towns of Wing Chiang, fucking great.
Another Robert Holmes episode to talk about here.
Yes.
Your number 3.
My number 3. It's one we've talked about before. It's the Caves of Androzani, the only Fifth Doctor story to show up here, but holy fucking shit. Holy fucking shit is this one really, really fucking good.
There's this reputation for Classic Who that it could be very cheap. And it was very cheap. But, I think an episode like Towns of Wing Chiang, and even more so, Caves of Androzani, the budget doesn't matter because the atmosphere that is built in Caves of Androzani is haunting. Yeah, it is grimy. It is dirty. It is disturbing. The costumes, the music is great. Obviously Murray Gold has made Doctor Who music into something else. Yeah, but the music in Caves of Androzani is particularly notable among Classic Who. I feel like they've even put out a full soundtrack. But yeah, that's one of my main takeaways from it, is that, if you complain about Doctor Who being cheap, watch what they could do with the budget, because Caves of Androzani is it. So what were you going to say?
Like I was talking about with like what Robert Holmes a lot of times brings to his scripts are not just like the great dialogue that the Doctor has, but he has really great side characters. The one of the primary villains in the Caves of Androzani, I can't remember what his name is, but he's like the dude who's masked, who he's like kind of been fucked up by all the stuff that like the mining that's been going on in Androzani, and is fighting against the mining corporation that's like from Androzani Major or whatever that's doing all this shit. That dude, he's kind of like has this Phantom of the Opera aspect of his character that's going on, and that dude is fucking great. Like he's a
Sharaz Jek?
Yes, Jek, that's his name. He's a really, really great villain. That's like, but he's not the only villain, because you have, like with a lot of really good Doctor Who stories, most of the plot revolves around the Doctor landing here, getting thrown into this situation he does not understand, that is like this conflict that pre-exists his arrival on the planet, and him trying to sort of like figure out how to maneuver around this conflict and try to resolve it in some way with these like two warring factions that are at odds with, like, you have the miners. They're like the mining sort of like corporation that is trying to get the stuff from Androzani Minor. That's a lot of minor stuff there. Yeah. And then he hires like these bandits, one of whom is Sabalom Glitz, who's one of my favorite characters too. He pops up in Seventh Doctor stuff. And then you have Jekt, who's on the planet, and he's sort of like fighting against them. He's like this crazy motherfucker. And then the Doctor and Perry are just sort of getting thrown like in between them, like the one in the first episode ends with them all like being lined up on a firing squad to get fucking executed. Like that's the end of the first episode. But where
it only gets darker from there.
Yeah. But the story has two in particular amazing standout moments to me. Of like the first one comes in where the Doctor has been captured and he's being taken away, but Perry is still on the planet. So the Doctor's on his spaceship. On this spaceship, he's like chained up, and he escapes. And he is so desperate to save Perry. And it's something that's like Peter Davison plays it so well that he just like wrests controls and gets control of the spaceship and fucking crash lands it on the surface of Androzani.
And the speech he gives at the end of episode 3 of why he has to do this.
It's just it's so intense, and just like the Fifth Doctor just fucking like snaps, like he's just like, I have got to fucking do this. I have to go save her. I have to go get her. I don't give a fuck, motherfucker. Like I am crashing this goddamn spaceship if I have to, and it's so fucking cool. And then also the Doctor becomes poisoned, and that's because this is also the Fifth Doctor's regeneration story. I think his regeneration scene is also really strong and really effective. That like also like having him having to sort of like fight against this debilitating poison, and it being like this really slow, drawn out regeneration. It's somewhat similar to the way the first Doctor regenerates and the third Doctor regenerates, but here it's particularly powerful. Also because Perry is a companion that was introduced in the previous story, so she is a completely new character basically to both the viewer and the Fifth Doctor, and so him going to such great extent to his own body at the peril of his own body and ultimately causing him to regenerate for this girl that he doesn't know, that he's just been sort of thrown together with. That the Fifth Doctor has a very 10th Doctor element of, like, all of his companions have left him at this point. Like, Atrick has died. Like, Tegan left him in tears because of the situations that she was thrown in constantly. That, like the stress that he has undergone up to this point is so great that seeing him go through so much to save this one annoying fucking girl, like, that the annoyance that Tegan, or that Perry is, so many fucking companions, I can't keep all the names straight. The annoyance that Perry represents is kind of an advantage to this episode, because it's like, it doesn't fucking matter, like, how annoying on the outside she is, that, like, the Fifth Doctor is going to fucking save her because that is his responsibility. He has to do it. So, yeah.
I mean, they took elements of this wholesale for David Tennant's last episode.
Yeah, that it out. And then also, this is the story that gives a brief and not entirely believable explanation for why he has that piece of lettuce on his lapel, and that it's supposed to turn purple should certain gases and toxins be in the environment around him, which doesn't help him when he actually gets fucking poisoned. But
you know, I always like the piece of lettuce on his lapel.
Yeah,
it's nice to get a shout out there.
Yeah.
No, Caves of Androzani, man, it's the regeneration scene itself is this trippy masterpiece. You feel so weird watching it, but in the right way. Yeah. And disoriented. And it's sad, too, because he's just... The Fifth Doctor... I mean, it's death. It's a real death scene. Like, you feel him... his consciousness goes away, and it doesn't come back, you know?
Yeah. And he even, like... There's this, like, really strange sense around it where the Fifth Doctor says, like... I don't know exactly what's going to happen because of, like, the nature of this... Of being poisoned in this way... I don't know what's going to happen with this regeneration, which is, you know, part of, like, the continuity of why the Sixth Doctor feels so erratic, and why I like the idea of what Colin Baker was trying to do if they had given him good material, is that the Doctor starts off with, like, this really incredibly erratic behavior and very egotistical, and he has to sort of work himself back to the much more compassionate man he had become over the course of this whole show. And this regeneration, even though that storyline was not fully followed through on, like, the genesis of it here is still really cool.
Yeah, definitely. Any more to say on this one?
No, just so fucking... When he fucking crashes that spaceship, it is so fucking cool.
And this one's on iTunes also, so you can see it easily, and you should.
Yeah.
All right. Number 2, Sean.
Okay, my number 2 story. This is a fucking great one. It's a... Surprise, it's a Patrick Troughton Second Doctor story. We might be seeing another one soon. This one is called The Invasion.
Hell yes, it is.
Yes, it is. And it is a Cyberman story, but that's not important. What's important about this story is Patrick Troughton, and the other thing that's important about this story is a little villain I like to call Tobias motherfucking Vaughn. Tobias Vaughn, the villain in this story, he's like this... Actually, no, I was actually thinking about this the other day when I was making this list, and I was, getting Assassin's Creed 4. Tobias Vaughn is basically the head of Abstergo, if you played the Assassin's Creed games. Like, he is the dude, like, his company is in everything. He just makes all forms of technology. Like, you learn it's because, like, the Cybermen are sort of kind of controlling him in the background, but he doesn't fully understand that. Like, he thinks he's like Lex Luthor, like, he is this human ego, human arrogance, but, human capability embodied in this fucking crazy, egotistical old man. And goddamn it, dude, when Tobias Vaughn is on screen, Tobias Vaughn is motherfucking on screen. Like, he has such a commanding, awesome presence, and he and Patrick Troughton meet for the first time. Like, the sparks that fly.
Yeah,
it's awesome. Like, he's just... Man, God, like, I don't even know what else to say about the story other than that Tobias Vaughn is so fucking cool.
Well, there's a lot of good things in The Invasion. It's well-paced. It's a little slow around the middle, but it's got really good Cyberman stuff. There's a legitimately scary Cyberman scene in, like, episode 3 or 4 that, like, I was surprised at how scared, like, frightening it was. There's... really, Jamie gets a lot of cool stuff to do. This is a Zoe story. Yeah, there's a great scene with, blasted computer!
Yeah, there's great stuff of where they're trying to get into Tobias Vaughn's building, and it's like the only way to get through it is to go through this whole, like, automated computer process. And computers were really new at the time, so the character of the Doctor was one of this, like, computers were this, like, dumb invention that it's like, for the Doctor was, like, stupid. Like, there's the computer can't keep up with him, so it's too frustrating for him. So it's like he's just.
And all I could think about in The Bells of St. John, the recent season premiere, where the Doctor does computer hacking, all I could think of is, man, Doctor, 9 regenerations ago, you were all
blasted computer! How do you use this thing? Yeah. It's great. Yeah, the Cyberman stuff is great. Like, fucking the Brigadier is in this one, too.
He's awesome in this one.
He's fucking great. And one interesting thing about the story is that I think it's episodes 1 and 4 no longer exist, but they made these like animated cartoon recreations of them using the original audio and like photo stills and stuff, and that's really cool. Like I think it would be obviously better to have the original episodes like there, but they work,
and they're doing it with a lot of them now.
Yeah, and it's a cool effect, and it's 1,000 times better than having to watch them as some sort of like weird audio drama.
Right.
So thank God, man. Like thank God they put like remade those episodes, because this story is so fucking good. It's so much, it doesn't like present these harsh philosophical dilemmas or something like that. Like it's not that kind of story, but it is just so much fun to watch. It is fucking great.
Yeah.
Oh man. I just really want to watch this episode right now. Tobias Vaughn is so good.
Well, what about your number 1?
Okay. Yeah, so if the invasion is that great, what could possibly top it? Well, they've got a little story I like to call Tomb of the Cybermen. This is another Patrick Troughton story, and if you may remember from the beginning of the podcast, this is one that when I got to this point, this is the first time I realized I have seen some of the show in my past when I was younger, because watching this episode, it all came back to me. And Tomb of the Cybermen is... It is, like I said with the invasion, the invasion is not an episode that presents like really interesting philosophical dilemmas. It is just really, really fun. Tomb of the Cybermen is legitimately great sci-fi in a way that it does present these philosophical dilemmas, that it does ask these questions about kind of like what life is when presented with the Cybermen that they find on Telos and stuff. And then it's got a great set of side characters that like basically the Doctor lands on this planet Telos. He doesn't, again, he just lands there. He has no fucking clue what's going on. That Telos is this planet that way in the future that the Cybermen have more or less been driven to extinction at this point, but they have gone into hibernation and rested under this planet in the Tomb of the Cybermen. And the Doctor meets up with these other group of like explorers / archaeologists that are mostly in it for the profit, trying to explore this facility, and the Doctor spends most of the story just trying to get them to fucking leave, because he knows this is no good, that you should not be here, but obviously, shit goes bad eventually, like, it's also really interesting because a lot of the time they're trying to get into the tomb, because the Doctor has at this point, the Doctor does not realize what's going on, that this is a Cyberman tomb, and so he's like playing. He can't but help himself play with all these different like sort of like logic puzzles that the Cybermen have left around as basically keys, because the Cybermen aren't going to leave like normal keys around to unlock doors. What the Cybermen would do is there's these highly complex logic puzzles that only they would believe Cybermen can solve, except for the Doctor's there, and obviously the Doctor can take care of it. So that facet of the episode is really interesting, seeing these logic puzzles and seeing how the Doctor deals with it, and seeing how the Doctor deals with suddenly realizing what this place is. But to me, there's two like really iconic parts of this episode that to me make it stick out the most in my mind, and one of them is, I mentioned it earlier, there's a scene where Victoria is there, because this is Victoria and Jamie are the two companions. And Victoria, I believe at this point, is still a relatively new companion, and she's kind of having trouble really understanding and dealing with the situation she's in, because she is from, like, Victorian-era London. So she's not even, like, like, for that time, like, a contemporary London person. Like, so this shit is especially crazy. Like, she doesn't even know what a car is, and she is in space. And she's trying to deal with, like, understanding what's going on, and the Doctor sits her down and explains to her that, like, what is important and what makes this special is that, like, we are in this specific time and place, and that only we can be here. And so what we are doing is always of the utmost importance, and that when you are faced with the grand expanse of the universe and all of that, that there is that temptation to be dwarfed by it, and to look at that and say, there is no, power in humanity. There is no, like, we are meaningless in the face of all this eternity. And there's, like, this, what defines Doctor Who to me is that moment where the Doctor sits her down and says that only we can be here. Like, only we can be here right now, right here, experiencing the things we are experiencing, doing the things we are doing. No one else can do this. And that's what makes this special. That it doesn't matter how much of it there is. The fact that we are here to experience it in some small part, that is what is significant, and that is what is important about being human. And the way he gives that speech to her is
That's
so
Doctor
incredible.
Who.
Yeah, exactly. It's like the thesis of Doctor Who boiled down in this one moment that, like, defines Doctor Who to me. And then, like, also, it's not quite as fucking amazing as that scene, but near the end of the episode, or the end of episode 3 of the serial, when the Cybermen finally break out of their tomb, it is like, when you're talking about there's like a legitimately frightening scene in the invasion with the Cybermen, like in Tomb of the Cybermen, when they break out, it is such a great fucking moment that it looks like something that you'd see watching like Frankenstein or Metropolis, like old great films of the past, like black and white movies, of just, you see the Cybermen in like encased in what, like, they're basically just like, open cardboard boxes with just really big cardboard boxes with saran wrap on one end, but the fact that it's like, like really poor visual quality in black and white means you can really buy sort of like the grandiosity of like this tomb you're presented with. And then when the Cybermen activate and they like slowly break out of this, like, looks like it's probably just saran wrap surrounding their like cages almost, it's this really great, just like, it's really creepy, really terrifying, and how much they've built the Cybermen up to get to that point. Because I believe this is the first Cybermen story since the 10th Planet, where the first Doctor regenerated. So it's like there is this sense of terror and power behind the Cybermen that when they wake up and they are breaking out of their shells, it is fucking cool. So, yeah, Tomb of the Cybermen, real fucking good.
You think it's the best Doctor Who episode ever?
Yes, it is certainly my favorite. I think it is, like I said, I think it is legitimately, like, it's not just like it's good sci-fi, it's one of the best sci-fi things I have ever seen. And I've seen a lot, goddammit. So,
yes.
So yeah, Tomb of the Cybermen. It comes with a bit of a recommendation, I'd say.
All right. Well, let's go through my recommendations.
All right.
I've got the top 10 modern Doctor Who episodes, so this is just from 2005 onwards.
Oh, really? That must have been really hard, picking 10 episodes from 2005 up till now. That must have been really, really tough for you, narrowing that down to 10.
I did have a lot of runners-up. I had this whole chunk of episodes here.
Oh, really? Oh, you had that whole chunk. Oh, man.
It's like 20 episodes.
Yeah, oh.
I'm sorry, Sean. Well, yes, I mean, this was different for me. Sean says your experience making the list was really stressful and frustrating.
Yeah, it was.
Mine was more, I had fun with this, where I had to make a lot of hard cuts, I felt like. But I just had fun going back and watching old episodes.
Well, that was probably the problem with mine, is that there was no way I could rewatch the episodes I wanted to rewatch to make this list. It would take me another year.
Yeah, it was fun because, I haven't revisited a lot of the David Tennant era in specific since I originally watched it. So going back to some of these and confirming, is it as good as I thought? And then being like, most of the time, yeah. And once or twice I was like, down a peg.
Yeah.
But not in a bad way, just like, okay, I conflated it a little too much in my mind. But yes. And this is, I want to start off with one that, when I first saw it, would have been higher on this list. And it's been degraded not by virtue of what it does, but by virtue of what the show has done. And this is number 10, The Girl in the Fireplace.
Yeah.
By Stephen Moffat from season 2. In this story, the Doctor... It's a really awesome premise, where the Doctor and his companions in this period is Rose and Mickey. And it bums me out a ton that Mickey is only his companion for like 2 episodes.
Yeah, well, he doesn't count as a companion.
Right, okay. Mickey travels on the TARDIS.
Yes.
Mickey could have been a companion, damn it.
Yeah, exactly. He should have been. You're right.
Yes, because Mickey's awesome. But anyway, Doctor, Rose, and Mickey, they land on this... Again, Doctor doesn't know what the fuck's going on. He lands on a ship in space. It's got all... The villains in this episode are awesome. They're these clockwork people. Really cool production design. And in any case, their ship has, throughout it, these like fireplaces and other like windows into some other reality, and you find out he goes through the fireplace at one point, the Doctor, and he's taken into like 1600s France.
Yeah.
And he meets Madame de Pompadour, who was a famous mistress of one of the kings. I don't know.
One of the Louises. I think it's 14th.
Yeah, Louis XIV. That's true. So he meets Madame de Pompadour as a little girl, and saves her one night from the Clockwork People. And then he goes back around through the fireplace, comes back, and she's an adult now.
Yeah.
And you may recognize this as the same premise used in the 11th Hour for Amy Pond.
Yeah.
And I think the thing is, Stephen Moffat did this idea better with Amy Pond.
I agree.
Because he had a season to do it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, season 5 is The Girl in the Fireplace made into a season of television. Mm-hmm. And I think you go back and look at The Girl in the Fireplace now, and some of its bite is taken a little bit because it doesn't seem as bold or fully realized. Because when you conflate this into make it a real companion, Amy's a companion, and you can really develop that more, it's even more fascinating. They don't, obviously, Girl in the Fireplace does not do everything you could do with this story. But for 43 minutes, I think it acquits itself very well. It's a really well done story. And I don't think Stephen Moffat plagiarized himself. I think he saw, I have a good idea here. I could build it into something even more now that I have the keys to the show.
Yeah.
And kudos to him, because the Amy Pond stuff is great. And, wouldn't want modern Doctor Who without it. But Girl in the Fireplace, beyond that premise, which I think is really good. Sophia Myles is great as Madame de Pompadour. This is a defining 10th Doctor story to me. I kind of mentioned it earlier. I feel like this defines how I wish the 10th Doctor had been portrayed as a romantic.
Yeah.
Where he's a romantic, again, in the sense of he's romanticizing history. Madame de Pompadour is attractive to him initially because of who she is and because he's a historical buff in this sense. But ultimately, she sees the world in a similar way as he does. She's a romantic also. And so it's not that he wants to, make out with her and spend his life with her. He wants to take her with him. He at the end, it's like, where do you want to go? Pick a star. And it's a heartbreaking ending where she winds up dying and he can't save her. But it's a really good story. And it's got great production design, great score by Murray Gold.
It's got that horse. The horse is pretty cool.
The horse is pretty cool. He dives through this window through time with a horse. It's good stuff.
Yeah.
So, anything to say about it, Sean?
No, I really like it. It is a fine choice.
All right, number 9. I know you like this one. Human Nature and the Family of Blood by Paul Cornell. Originally written as a 7th Doctor novel, adapted into... In the best run of the third season, where it went Human Nature, Family of Blood, Blink.
Yeah.
That's a good, set of episodes there.
Yes, it is.
Human Nature and the Family of Blood, and obviously I'm conflating two-parters here. This is... I really wish Stephen Moffat would bring the 2-part form back to Doctor Who, because while it could result in unendurable tedium, a la Daleks in Manhattan and Evolution of the Daleks, it could also do this. And this is not a story you could tell in one part.
Yeah.
And I think Human Nature and the Family of Blood, the premise really quickly, obviously, is the Doctor... It has a great opening, where the Doctor and Martha are just in peril for some unknown reason, and then the Doctor is a human suddenly in pre-World War I England at this boys' school. And he's a professor of Dr. John Smith, which is really nice.
Yes.
He also, in a very touching moment, says his mother's name was Verity.
Yeah. And also just like a fun, weird thing about it being a 7th Doctor story is that Ace, who would have been the companion, would have usually called the Doctor Professor as like a weird tick. So him actually becoming a professor was like a weird reference to that.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, so in any case, he becomes a human. His name's John Smith. Martha is, because of racial roles at the time, she has to be his sort of maid. Mm-hmm. And she's watching over him. He's put his personality into this watch. This villainous family of blood is out for him. And they're trying to find him, so he has to be a human so they can't find Time Lord energy.
Yeah.
And the Family of Blood guys are great. There's this one young guy who becomes... they take his body over, and he's just this snarling, animalistic... It's a great little villainous performance. I love it.
Yeah, it's a little over the top, but it's the right amount of over the top.
Yes, it's perfect.
It's good.
But mostly this is a really laid-back story about... It's about a lot of different things. I mean, there's some very strong British nationalistic ideas in this episode about what British nationalism meant on the eve of World War I.
Yeah.
That's really interesting. There's this subplot with this kid who is... I forget the actor's name, but he's now gone on to do a lot of stuff. He's on Game of Thrones now.
Huh.
Yeah.
No idea.
And he's... there's this kid who's kind of bullied, but he's going to wind up being a war hero. That's an interesting subplot. But mostly it's John Smith. He's falling in love with this human woman, and it is, as you noted before, in the 7th Doctor tradition, at the end, when he captures the Family of Blood, he fucking destroys them. He does.
There is no mercy. It is It is fucked up.
It's terrifying.
It's like they are fucking lucky he did not exterminate their entire goddamn species by blowing up their fucking planet. Like, they got off easy, goddammit.
But in an even deeper sense, I think this is the best modern Who exploration of the Doctor's dark side. That's something we see a lot in the Moffat era now, is what is the Doctor's dark side? Well, Human Nature and Family of Blood hits on it perfectly, where it's not just what he does to the Family of Blood, it's how he manipulates the people in his life. Most notably himself, because what he does to John Smith is terrible.
Yeah, exactly.
There's no other word for it. He makes this other man, and there is this really interesting question. The Doctor really tries to tell this woman, I am John Smith, he was me, and I don't think we believe him, and I don't think he believes it. Fully. But John Smith is manipulated. John Smith has to choose to die, remove everything he is, so this mythical Doctor can come back. And this woman, Miss Redgrave, who John Smith has fallen in love with, she has to abandon this whole life they could have had. Children, grandchildren, a real life for themselves. Martha just goes through the fucking ringer. Freema Agyeman is great in this episode. And all these people have to be so much braver than the Doctor actually is. All the Doctor has to do is just kind of sit and wait for everything to fall in line.
Yeah, and then once it's there, it's like he's so powerful at the point he is in his life that it's like it doesn't matter anymore. Like once he has the pieces in place, he can just knock them down like nothing.
And I think that is it's so provocative in many ways. And really interesting. This episode, I think the first, it's 2 episodes. I think the first episode and the first half of the second episode are good but not great to me. I think they've got a lot of great elements. It's really the last 25 minutes when it all comes together. That is great television.
Yeah, because like the beginnings of it are just really setting up and building up the John Smith character. So by the time he has to make this choice of ceasing his own existence to bring in the Doctor, that you feel the weight of that. And fucking David Tennant does such a good job of, particularly the scene after you don't know what choice John Smith has made, but he shows up on the Family of Blood ship, and then there's this moment where he switches into the Doctor, and it's like he just switches, like you see it so immediately in like every facet of his performance, and that's what makes it so incredible, is like the sense of like that the Doctor was able to play John Smith. It's like obviously David Tennant just playing both of those characters, but it's like you got this sense of like the Doctor was able to do that you get this sense of the Doctor being that manipulator so clearly in that moment of how he is able to sort of like pull off that facade like nothing. It's like, oh, holy shit.
It's so cruel and just sad.
Yeah. And then the scene that he has with Miss Redgrave after all that
Redfern.
Yeah. That after all that is over, where he's the Doctor now, and like him talking to her, like that's such a fucking heartbreaking scene because it's just really bizarre circumstances of events that have left these two characters where like the 10th Doctor knows nothing about this woman whatsoever, and like nothing about like the way she felt, and he has to like sort of be faced with the fact that he created and then just callously destroyed this human being without any real thought about it.
Yeah. And great stuff with Martha too, where she is, one of Martha's story arcs was that she kind of had a crush on the Doctor. Wasn't always the best part of her character, but they do a very good job with it here because it lines up with those themes of him not seeing her. And I think that's really, really interesting stuff. So, good 2-parter.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
My number 8 is Vincent and the Doctor. Just a sentimental favorite on my part.
Yeah,
this is by Richard Curtis from season 5. There's a lot of season 5 episodes on this list, and it's in which Rory's not in this one because Rory's just been died and been erased from history.
This is the one where she like cries and doesn't know why. Yeah,
so the Doctor and Amy go back in time to meet Vincent van Gogh, as they call him in this episode. That's sort of the European pronunciation of Vincent van Gogh. And it is just one of the great odes to artistry I think I've ever seen in fiction. Because Richard Curtis doesn't treat Vincent van Gogh as a joke. He doesn't treat him as a character.
Yeah.
The actor Tony Curran, same thing. They want to really get to the heart of who this character is and analyze as a character, how would Vincent van Gogh make such incredible artwork? And Vincent van Gogh is probably my favorite, painter. If push comes to shove, I really love his work. Got to see this exhibit of his in Denver recently, where they had, everything but Starry Night there, because you can't get that.
Yeah,
not easy to get. And it's just you look at his work and it's amazing. But also now, when I look at Vincent van Gogh's work, I think of this episode, and that to me indicates how powerful it is and what a great story it is. And there are actually elements of it that are already outdated. It works very heavily with his depression. And while Vincent van Gogh was heavily depressed, we now are fairly sure he did not kill himself. The new research indicates that he actually was shot by a hunter while he was painting, and the hunter, missed a quail or something and killed Vincent van Gogh. That really sucks.
Yeah.
So
this episode, fuck that. This episode's terrible now. It's like Jurassic Park. There's no fucking feathers on the dinosaurs. Fuck that bullshit.
Well, they didn't know at the time, and I think Vincent van Gogh, though, was clinically depressed. We know that. And I think this is also such a great portrait of depression and how mental anguish can fuel artistry, and how, Vincent van Gogh is so deeply disturbed in so many ways, and yet that allows him to see the world in different ways. And I love how they manifest it through this, the actual monster adventure of the episode is something that only Van Gogh can see. It's all working on this high metaphor, but it's so great. And then it comes together in this ending that is so bold and emotionally manipulative, but so well done, where the Doctor just kind of snaps because he loves this man so much at this point. He's like, I can't not do this. Brings him into the TARDIS and brings him to this art museum where there's a Van Gogh exhibit. And it's this just beautiful scene where Van Gogh is looking around at all his paintings and is just overwhelmed by the people loving them. And then Bill Nighy, in this awesome guest spot, gets to give this speech about why Van Gogh is such a great artist. And then there's this ending where Van Gogh still commits suicide. And the Doctor then has this great speech about life is a pile of good things and bad things, which also I feel like is so fundamental to Doctor Who, is, you can't erase the bad things, but maybe we can add to the pile of good things. That's what he tells Amy.
Yeah. So
much good stuff in this episode. And it's well acted, and it's beautifully directed.
Yeah.
Really, really good.
Yes, it is.
All right. Number 7. I had trouble ranking some of these ones, but number 7 is A Christmas Carol.
This is a good one.
This is a really good one.
I like this episode a lot.
This is the Christmas special from 2010. Yeah. 2010, and it was coming off of Series 5. Stephen Moffat at this point is on such an absurd hot streak. Like, it literally is insane how good Series 5 is, and then you can follow that up with A Christmas Carol. They're just firing on all cylinders at this point. And A Christmas Carol is, as the name suggests, an adaptation of the Dickens book, where
kind of. Well, not really.
This is what I was going to say. It's where the book exists, obviously, and the Doctor, basically, Amy and Rory are on this starship. It's crashing. This old bastard named Kazran Sardik owns the skies.
It's a great Doctor Who human, space human name.
Yes, Kazran Sardik. Kazran Sardik will not give up the airspace. He will not let the ship in, and the Doctor can't figure out what to do. So finally, he decides, because this is something the 11th Doctor would do.
Yeah.
He just decides, I'm going to take A Christmas Carol and apply that to this situation.
Yeah.
Which is so crazy.
Yeah, it makes no fucking sense.
But I love it, and really, what's so amazing to me is that it's a great Christmas Carol adaptation story, because it really hones in on one of those key ideas of the Dickens book, which is how a person's past influences their present, and how, if we take a critical look at ourselves and our pasts, what can we become? Who can we be? These are the questions Dickens asks. It does a really good job with it in this episode. Michael Gambon is so awesome as Kazran, so emotionally raw in some of these scenes. Katherine Jenkins, who's an opera singer, does really great work as his love interest. There's this whole part of the story where basically every Christmas the Doctor will go back with Kazran to spend one night with this woman who Kazran's father has put in on ice. It's weird.
Yeah.
But it just packs this emotional wallop. It builds up to such a great conclusion. And it's this big, awesome, epic cinematic Christmas special. I remember watching it on Christmas Day in 2010 and just being like, this is awesome to have Doctor Who on Christmas at this caliber of quality.
And then, also just the dialogue is so...
And what do boys say?
It's so...
Mummy!
It's so fucking funny. Like Matt Smith knocks it out of the park so much. Yeah. It feels like a Fourth Doctor, like a really good Fourth Doctor episode in that way of just, some of the lines are just fucking hilarious. But, not only are they just hilarious in a vacuum, but the delivery of them is so perfect. So fucking funny.
I remember, this was the first episode I ever had my little brother watch of Doctor Who, and he was hooked by the time the Doctor comes down to the chimney. He was like, why have I never watched this show? It's so great.
Yeah.
So lots of good stuff here. Number 6. This is a really notable episode in modern Who history. This is Dalek by Richard Shearman, or Robert Shearman, one of the two. Dalek is the 6th or 7th episode of Series 1.
I think it's the 6th, but
I think that's probably right, because we have 1, 2, 3, and then 4, 5 are a two-parter, and then we have Dalek. Yeah. In any case, Dalek is the episode, for me, that hooked me on Doctor Who, and I think it's where the modern series clicks into place.
Yeah, that's I feel that way, too.
It's a great story. It's where there's this one lone Dalek has survived the Time War, and really, honestly, other Dalek stories need to learn this lesson. Fewer Daleks might make a better story sometimes. Yeah. Because then after this, Russell T Davies would be like, I'm just going to put Daleks everywhere all the time. Fuck it, Daleks go everywhere.
Hey, it's an ancient Doctor Who tradition to just let's sprinkle Daleks all over the place. Fuck it. The kids like them.
Yeah, so, and this is not a kid-friendly episode at all.
It's not.
This is one Dalek. The first half is just the Doctor dealing with his rage and angst over the Time War. And, Rose, again being audience proxy, she's surprised at it. And we're surprised, too. We didn't know the Doctor was carrying this level of anger within him. Mm-hmm. And the way he talks to the Dalek. And there's that great scene that ends with him just yelling, die. Yeah. Remember that? It's so good. And
you would make a good Dalek.
So awesome. But then the Dalek gets out, and it's like the movie Alien. It's this one thing that is just tearing this place to shreds. Mm-hmm. And such great action. It's so terrifying. The ultimate resolution is really well done. And Christopher Eccleston was never better than he was here. Yeah. It is such a simple but great Doctor Who story. Really the moment where I feel like they found the right gear to how to treat the villains on Modern Who, how to treat the Doctor and his relationship to those villains, how to integrate the Time War mythology, this new mythology in it. And there is some humor in here that's really good. The whole underground complex with this rich guy who just collects things that he shouldn't be collecting. A lot of interesting stuff on that level. But Dalek is a masterpiece of Modern Who.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
And it's one of the best Dalek stories in the history of the entire show. So.
Yeah. Certainly they have never topped it on Modern Who.
Yeah, no, that's definitely true.
There have been good Dalek episodes since. There have also been bad ones.
Yes, there have.
Yeah. So in any case, let's move on. My number 5, this is a weird case.
Yeah, it is. I didn't realize this was going to be on here. I understand why, but...
Okay, this is The End of Time, Part 2, and very specifically, Part 2.
Yeah.
And it's really tough to know how to gauge this, but I feel like Part 2 is so good, I can view it separately. But The End of Time, this is the last David Tennant story, the last Russell T Davies story. It was a special. Part 1 airs on Christmas, Part 2 airs on New Year's Day. Part 1 is a piece of shit. Part 1 is awful. It is really bad Doctor Who. It's got a moment or two that are good, mostly with David Tennant sort of contemplating regeneration.
Yeah.
But other than that, it's really weird because when this era of Doctor Who should be winding down, Russell T Davies decides, I'm going to do a season's worth of exposition in one episode.
Yeah. And
so we have just this mountain of exposition, all in favor of bringing their shitty version of the Master back, the John Sim character.
And he has fucking, lightning powers.
Yes.
Like, what the fuck?
They don't even really do anything with that.
Yeah, they don't even, justify its existence in any way. It's just like, fuck it. He can shoot lightning, goddammit.
Yeah, it's really weird. There's this weird subplot in Part 1 that is dropped for Part 2, where President Obama is going to be giving a speech on the economy, and Bernard Cribbins, the Wilfred character, is really excited to watch it.
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
It's like a big subplot, and it makes no sense. There's a lot of stuff like that.
Well, and it's to make the Master's master plan, so that when he's all of a sudden, the President turns into the Master, that's...
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. It's shocking, right?
Well, and then Part 1 ends with this thing where the Master's plan is to create a master race, which consists of turning all humans into himself. And every time...
This is the stupidest I have seen! Every fucking Doctor Who story, that is literally the stupidest fucking thing the Master has ever tried to do. That is so fucking dumb. Oh my god.
I wrote in my piece today that every time he says master race, I want to punch the TV. It's so dumb.
It's such a what the fuck? He succeeds. He makes everybody into him, which is stupid. It's so fucking dumb.
But
it sounds dumb, and then when you see it happen, you're like, what are they thinking? Who can buy this fucking shit? Oh my god.
And the weird thing is, it almost feels like Russell T Davies looked at his script for part 1, realized it was garbage, and instead of rewriting it, he just went and did something different for part 2.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, part 2 does not feel like it really continues off of part 1.
Mm-hmm.
Part 2 is its own thing. Like, the master race is there. It's not a focus by any means.
Yeah.
It's just that the Doctor has to stop the master now.
Yeah.
And part 2 is great. And part 2 turns it around from the first scene where the master has the Doctor in captivity, and the Doctor has this great speech about how, you could be so great. I would want to call you my brother. What have you become? And it feels like he's talking to a different incarnation of the master.
Yeah. It's just watching that is like, this should be John Pertwee and Roger Delgado, or Peter Davison and Anthony Ainley. Like, why the fuck is John Sim here?
But from there on out, The End of Time Part 2 is just... it's the best episode Russell T Davies ever wrote, as far as I'm concerned. I think it is an embarrassment of riches. It's got so much good stuff. David Tennant's probably just, in terms of just pure concentrated acting, it's maybe his best episode. So much great stuff with him. And just, it very much takes like a Return of the King approach at the end, where the Doctor winds up getting hurt in the way that will regenerate him early in the episode, actually. Yeah. Or maybe about halfway through, and then the last
it's very Third Doctor regeneration in that way.
Yeah, and he winds up kind of taking this tour of his old companions and trying to see everything and get one last view in of all the people he loved before he goes. But really, and I could go through and talk about all the great scenes, but really what makes this a great episode for me is something I hinted at earlier, where I think the specific way Russell T Davies writes the 10th Doctor and the specific way David Tennant chooses to play him during the last half of the episode contextualizes a lot of the messy aspects of the characterization. Mm-hmm. So there's this phenomenal scene where we had this whole thing about the he will knock 4 times. That's the specials, this premonition. And then what the knock is Wilfred has been in this chamber, radiation has leaked in, he knocks 4 times, and the Doctor, who thinks his life is safe and he won't regenerate, looks up and sees Wilfred there. And the Doctor goes on this great... It's like a Shakespearean monologue. It's so amazing and so well done. David Tennant really showing his theater roots here. Mm-hmm. And it's all... He's raging against fate. He's raging against his own selflessness. He's saying how much he wants to be selfish, basically. Mm-hmm. And how much he doesn't want to have to do this. But how much this part of him is there and he can't ignore. And Wilfred is begging him, I don't matter, I'm an old man. This is not like the Perry situation so much, because Wilfred is awesome and everybody loves Wilf. Yeah. But it's the same thing, though. Wilfred, he's like not 80. He's not long for this earth necessarily. Yeah. The Doctor, and as Wilfred says, you matter more than me. And the Doctor is raging against this. He wants to believe him, but he can't. And there's this great line where after the whole monologue, he says, it's going to be an honor, Wilf. And he goes in and saves Wilf. And really that scene, and then what follows it, with the Doctor, he says, I'm going to go get my reward, which is really just him revisiting all his companions. I think it contextualizes this aspect that the 10th Doctor has so many warring things inside him. Yeah. And there's this... You see in that scene now, you can understand the balance between his impulsiveness and his brilliance, and his selfishness and his selflessness, and his sort of romanticism and his cynicism. And all of it can coexist because of these last moments. And I don't think it excuses dumb plot things like Rose and the Doctor, but I think overall it makes the 10th Doctor era feel it has more weight now. Yeah. And then just the last couple scenes are so perfectly fucking executed, to the degree where his second to last scene on the show is he interacts with Rose on the day before she's going to meet, or the year before she's going to meet the Doctor. And it's a great scene, and you can immediately forget about the dumb stuff they did with Rose, because
it's like it's the first time they brought Rose back, and I was like, oh, okay, like this... Yes, this works. Like, this is emotionally affecting me. Because it feels like Rose, not whatever the fuck happened to that character during season 2.
And then there's just something so emotionally honest and right about it that you can't even put your hands on why this is right. But, like, his last scene, this violent regeneration, and his last words are, I don't want to go. Yeah. It just works. And it works on this kind of instinctual level. And I think that's... The whole episode just hits the emotional beats so well. It's such a great adventure. It's got Timothy Dalton as this Time Lord King.
It's Rassilon. Yeah. Fuck you, Time Lord King. It's fucking Rassilon.
I did...
it's motherfucking Rassilon.
I'm sorry.
Jesus.
Timothy Dalton is cool.
It's Rassilon's
I'm
fucking
sorry.
Cool. Rassilon need to go watch the 5 Doctors, goddammit.
Okay, well, I haven't seen the 5 Doctors.
Yeah, well, Rassilon's fucking in it.
Okay.
Which, yes, that is... I don't know... it makes because they go to Rassilon's tomb in the Five Doctors, so I don't entirely understand how Rassilon is in this episode.
Oh well,
Time War stuff gets weird. Doctor Who continuity gets real fucking weird.
All right, well, let's move on. Are you an End of Time Part 2 fan?
Yeah, I really like it. Like, it's definitely, it's like it is the 10th Doctor's Caves of Androzani, in that it's like it's a regeneration story that totally defines that Doctor, and it makes an interesting counterpoint because how closely the 10th and 5th Doctors are tied, not just because of how much David Tennant obviously took from Peter Davison because that's his favorite Doctor, but even just like the fact that they interacted, that you have that element of like David, like the 10th Doctor is selfish, like in the way that most of the other Doctors are not, but especially like the 5th Doctor is like the epitome of selflessness, like especially in Caves of Androzani, that is readily apparent that it's like the 5th Doctor does not give a fuck about his own life. Like he does not struggle with that decision at all. So the idea of like in Time Crash of the 10th Doctor idolizing the 5th Doctor in that way because the 5th Doctor represents this part of his life where he could do that so easily, and then the 10th Doctor not being able to do that. Like, the 10th Doctor is such a tragic character that's, I don't know, it's, yeah, End of Time Part 2 is real fucking good, even if it comes from complete horseshit.
It's so weird.
It's so weird. The fucking, all the shit with the Master in Part 1 is so dumb. It's unbelievable. Like, it's even worse than, like, the Doctor going Super Saiyan at the end of Season 3, It's unbelievable.
And the thing is, even, not only does Part 1 lead into a great episode, Part 1 is preceded by a bunch of great specials.
Yeah.
You've got, Waters of Mars. Holy...
Awesome, yeah.
Waters of Mars was one of the hardest omissions on this list for me, because that's another 10th Doctor story where
that one probably would have made it on my list of, like, top 10 Modern Who episodes.
His dilemma at the end of that one is so good, where he he wants to be able to change things. He wants to have this power, and he's humbled, but he doesn't want to be humbled.
Yeah.
I love it. But yeah, and then I like Planet of the Dead, which is this like fun heist caper. I even like the Next Doctor one. It's got some dumb stuff, but it's fun overall. So, in any case, End of Time Part 1 is an aberration. End of Time Part 2 is really good.
Yeah.
And this, so one of the best Doctor regeneration stories is followed on my number 4 choice by the single best Doctor introduction story, The 11th Hour. What can you say about The 11th Hour? Besides, holy fuck, holy fuck, holy fuck, holy fuck, this is awesome. Just the whole time.
Yeah.
To start to finish. It's like Stephen Moffat has this penchant where he can overstuff his episodes, and not everything will get equal time it needs. The 11th Hour is absurdly busy. It's got the introduction of a new Doctor. It's got the introduction of a new companion. It's got the introduction of a super complex mythology we have not still fully paid off on.
Yeah. That we likely never will.
Well, Stephen Moffat has said he's building the Doctor's final episode around it.
Sure.
So, I hope so. But, so we've got this new mythology, we've got a new villain, we've got, Rory to introduce. Yeah. I think I often forget Rory actually is introduced in Amy's first episode.
Yeah, because he doesn't seem particularly significant in this episode.
No.
Like, you don't realize how cool he's going to be. Yeah. That he's even going to get his own place on the box art at some point in the future.
Yes, his own place.
Yeah.
Anyway, so all of that's introduced. There's a story they're telling. There's a new TARDIS they're introducing. Yeah. There's a whole new visual style for the show. They clearly have a bigger budget at this point. They're shooting in HD.
Yeah, like basically all the music is completely different themes.
Yeah. Murray Gold totally threw out all the old music, bringing in new. There's a new theme song. All this stuff. And yet it all works just perfectly.
There's a new logo.
There's a new logo. It's just all of it is so well done. Moment one to the end. And it's absurdly fun. You've got all the stuff in the beginning with the Doctor trying the different foods and all that, and Amy, and there's this great emotional core to it with, as I mentioned earlier, the girl in the fireplace connection. Having young Amy be the first face the new Doctor meets, and then sort of realizing who she is as an adult and how this has affected her, and the Doctor coming back and in his own way kind of trying to make amends for really fucking her over pretty bad by abandoning her for like 15 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty cold shit.
I know. Well, at least he didn't blow up her planet.
Right.
Look on the fucking bright side,
Yeah. It's cold. It's not, Machiavellian.
Yeah.
Such great stuff. Karen Gillan. I thought about this earlier today when I was trying to figure out how best to describe what an impression Karen Gillan makes in this episode. But she was destined to be on this show too long because she's so good in this episode.
Yeah.
It's like, there was no way they were not going to overuse this character. It's just, that's how good of an impression she makes and how good she is with Matt Smith. Mm-hmm. And Matt Smith, I mean, he is such a fully formed Doctor the moment he steps on screen. But even more than that, by the moment he has his real introduction at the end, such a great scene. The first time they play the "I Am the Doctor" theme, and he's putting on his costume. He's going through the hospital, just stealing the various bits of clothing. I like that.
Which is a nice throwback to that's how like the third Doctor gets his clothes.
Nice.
He just like takes them because he regenerates in the hospital.
That's awesome. So the Doctor gets his new outfit. They're playing these projections of the old Doctors, and you get to David Tennant, and then he steps through.
He walks through. Yeah.
And it's, "Hello, I'm the Doctor." Basically, run.
Yeah.
You just want to stand up and applaud. The 11th Hour is like the greatest crowd-pleasing season premiere ever. So perfect. So, I mean, I haven't actually seen every Doctor Introduction episode. Is there a better one than this?
I mean, Doctor Introduction episodes historically are not, like, particularly significant. I think, like, its biggest competition is probably an Unearthly Child, because the 7th Time in the Ronnie is not good. Twin Dilemma, not good. Castrovalva, the 5th Doctor one, is actually pretty good, but it's not that good. See, Robot, the 4th Doctor one, is not that great.
A lot of people like Spearhead from Space.
Spearhead from Space, I just, like, once I got back down to the 3rd Doctor, Spearhead from Space is pretty fucking good.
Okay.
Spearhead from Space, that might give it its run for its money.
Okay.
That and Unearthly Child.
Yeah. The 11th
Power
Hour
of the Daleks, the 2nd Doctor one, even though that one doesn't exist anymore, that one's pretty fucking cool too.
Okay.
It's at least not bad like most of the other ones.
It's just the 11th Hour is such an incredible juggling act, and it gets the Stephen Moffat era off to such a great start, you know? And I think there's been some ups and downs since then, but overall, this has been a really good era for Doctor Who since then, and this was a good kickoff point.
Yeah.
And it was great also coming out of End of Time Part 2, and just those bookends are awesome.
Yeah.
So speaking of bookends, there's a weird theme to how this list is ranked, and I didn't realize that when I made it. But number 3...
It's like you baked in the segues into your list almost.
Yeah. Number 3 on my list is the Pandorica Opens and the Big Bang, the 2-part season finale to Series 5. And in my opinion, Series 5 is easily the best run of modern Doctor Who.
Yeah.
In terms of a single season. It's
without a doubt.
So good. Every episode is a winner. And in between it, Stephen Moffat shows Russell T Davies how to do a story arc. It's not that you pepper in the word bad wolf every once in a while.
Fucking Jesus.
It's that you have actual stories going on. The characters are constantly developing, even when those stories aren't the focal point.
Yeah.
And so you get to an episode like the Pandorica Opens, and it all comes together. And not only are you paying off on specific arc-heavy episodes, like the 11th Hour, like Time of Angels, like the end of the Silurian one, you're paying off on all the character development we've seen too. So suddenly an episode like Amy's Choice becomes super important. Vincent and the Doctor becomes super important. All of these episodes, because of where they've taken the characters, it all pays off. And the payoff in Pandorica Opens, and more specifically the Big Bang, is so good. Pandorica Opens is a great adventure episode. This is one of those two-parters where the two parts are fairly distinct. Pandorica Opens is just apocalyptically awesome. There's just so much goes down. There's one of my favorite Matt Smith scenes ever. One of those scenes I feel like will define him as the Doctor is when all the enemies are bearing down on the Pandorica. He gives the speech. There's that version of the 11th Doctor theme. Awesome.
Yeah.
And just the whole two-parter, I don't know how to put this into words. It feels like this amazing victory lap in the midst of wrapping things up. Like they were so on fire creatively here. It's like celebrating how good the show is as the show is being at its best for Modern Who. And you watch it, and it's just... I get this feeling every time I look back at it. No matter what Stephen Moffat and Matt Smith would have done after this, their legacy was secured by this season and how well it wrapped up. And The Big Bang in particular has some emotional payoff moments, like, Rory choosing to be a Centurion for 2,000 years, which he never gets enough credit for. That is a devoted spouse, Amy.
That is just one of those moments where it's just like the amount of weight this action should carry would just pull the entire show down because of just how significant it is that we just have to move on. It's fucking okay. Yep, 2,000 years. Let's just ignore it.
And then there's Amy recalling the Doctor at her wedding, all of that stuff. But really, the best scene in this episode, the best scene in Series 5, probably the best scene of Matt Smith's run to date, is the Doctor is basically being erased from time. He's to save the world. The universe has been erased. To restore it, he has to kind of go in the Pandorica, be launched into this dying sun. And while he's recalling various memories, he's in the room with a young Amy. She's sleeping, child Amy, as from the premiere. and the crack in the wall is opening to take him away, and he just sits down. And one of the things Matt Smith does best is project the age of the Doctor. You never think about him being a young man. And this scene, more than any, nails that, where he's just so weary. He feels ready to die, but he just gives Amy this speech about how, you know, even if you don't remember it, these things happened, they mattered. And then he starts talking about the TARDIS, the bluest blue speech.
Yeah.
I think it's the best piece of dialogue Stephen Moffat's ever written. I think it's Matt Smith's probably single best moment on the show. And just overall, this two-parter, all the time manipulations are so great. Stephen Moffat can write time travel annoyingly sometimes, like in Series 6. Here, it's so well used, all the different time travel manipulations. It's just such a great climax to the season. It feels like the Doctor Who movie in so many ways.
Yeah, it does.
But in any case, let's move on. My number 2 is The Doctor's Wife by Neil Gaiman.
Yeah.
I was trying to think of, you know, I think it's, you know, it's easy to make and to praise really big episodes of Doctor Who, season finales, season premieres, ends of Doctor's runs. I think it's, as we've seen in Modern Who, where the middle episodes are often considered weaker, even though sometimes I don't think they always are. I think season 5 is good throughout, for instance. It can be harder to make just a good one-off 43-minute episode of Doctor Who. Neil Gaiman sure as shit did it here.
Yeah. You
are a huge fan, so why don't you tell the kids why it's great?
Okay, yeah, I mean, if I was making a list of the top 10 modern Doctor Who episodes, The Doctor's Wife would be number 1. Like, if I was not ignoring Modern Who episodes when I made my top 10 list, The Doctor's Wife might have made it on there in the top 10 episodes of all time. And for me, the reason why I love this episode so much, and it's one of the reasons why I love the show so much, is because of how long it is. Like, we talked about this at the beginning of the podcast. And that the show has something to it that nothing else has. Not just in terms of its tone and its sort of charm and its magic to it, but just in terms of like the sheer amount of history and weight it has due to its great length. And I think, you know, Neil Gaiman and The Doctor's Wife pays all of that off because, you know, the main premise of The Doctor's Wife is that the TARDIS itself, its soul, is sort of sucked out by the planet in the bubble universe. It's not really a bubble universe, but it's basically a bubble universe. And its soul gets sucked out and placed into this sort of host body, Idris. And so the Doctor gets to meet the TARDIS and actually interact with her, and then like join up with her to go back and like get her back into the TARDIS's now empty shell and fight off House, which is like this evil planet that's sort of taken over and trying to get back into the normal universe. But the whole core and thrust of the episode is just looking at this relationship, this long unspoken relationship the Doctor has had with the TARDIS the entire time, because the TARDIS has been there. Like, the TARDIS has been a character the entire time. It's just the TARDIS has never had a voice, and the Doctor's never been able to interact with her in any way other than, you know, calling her old girl every once in a while and being maybe a little exasperated when she's unable to take him to the Eye of Orion, which he's always trying to get back to for some reason.
And there's great lines in here, like, you know, he yells at her, "You never take me where I want to go," and she says, "I always took you where you needed to go."
Yeah.
And it's just great interplay like that is it doubles as banter and really great thematic statements about the legacy of Doctor Who.
Yeah, exactly. And this episode, more than any other modern Doctor Who episode, just carries that weight of the series, and the way Neil Gaiman writes the Doctor and the way Matt Smith performs it, it gives like every single line the Doctor has, I feel like any Doctor has that line, you know, like it's so just the Doctor that there's just those scenes in this episode that I can see William Hartnell and Patrick Troughton and John Pertwee and Tom Baker and Peter Davison and Colin Baker and Sylvester McCoy and fucking Paul McGann and Christopher Eccleston and David Tennant and obviously Matt Smith, all there delivering those lines, being in that scene, and all of them doing it their own different way, but them all being uniquely the Doctor. And you know, there are plenty of episodes of Modern Doctor Who that have individual moments that feel like that, but this episode feels like that throughout. And you know, the ending to this episode with when the TARDIS has to go back and she has to lose her voice again, and the Doctor and her have to go back to the relationship they had before, like that. It's such a sad moment. There's so much history and so much weight behind that scene that when the Doctor breaks down in that moment, like I usually wouldn't buy the Doctor having such an intense emotional outburst in most situations, just because of how old he is at this point, that you have to come up with something really special to get the Doctor to react that way. and God damn it, this is that moment. Like, this is that moment where the Doctor emotionally just breaks down because of, of everything that he's encountered with, because he has been with the TARDIS this whole goddamn time. There's so much weight to this episode that's why I love it so much.
And absolutely, and the scene you're talking about is followed by the bunk bed joke.
Yeah.
Which is...
And that's another thing about the episode. This is not just like, it's got all, like the great premise and, the really great sort of like gothic stuff that Neil Gaiman does so well, and the immense weight of Doctor Who behind it, but it's just got a lot of really fun Doctor Who dialogue and lines that the Doctor and Amy and Rory both had some good lines too throughout the episode.
And Amy and Rory even have an interesting subplot where they are in the bowels of the TARDIS. The first time we've seen the interior of the TARDIS.
Yeah.
In
the Modern Who.
In Modern Who, that's what I meant.
Yeah.
Done more effectively here than in Journey to the Centra of the TARDIS.
Yeah, without a doubt.
Yeah. But yes, Doctor's wife, Sean said it all. I felt like, there's one episode above this to me for a couple, we'll talk about my number one, but it's just...
Yeah, we'll talk about your number one.
Doctor's Wife is a great episode in its simplicity, but its power. It feels right to be at the top or near top of the list to me, because it's kind of Doctor Who personified.
Yeah.
And it kind of represents how much this show can continue and endure, that in 2011 they could make this episode so far removed from the start of the series, but so much feeling like a part of this ongoing legacy.
Yeah.
That's why it is so much, the height or near height to me of Modern Who. Really amazing.
Yeah.
So, but my number one, this was a tough tiebreaker. It was really, I was watching these episodes again. It's just what hit me more. And my number one, it's pretty obvious. It's the one that aired...
It's the one that's not been on the list yet.
It's the one that aired right before The Doctor's Wife, The Curse of the Black Spot.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
there's
the
pirates.
You've been getting so much into Assassin's Creed 4 that, you realize... Curse of the Black Spot was really good. It had fucking pirates in it. Assassin's Creed 4 has pirates, and it's cool. Pirates of the Caribbean has pirates in it. It's cool. Curse of the Black Spot has got to be cool because it's got pirates in it. Yeah. Exactly. No, I'm totally with you. It's the number one. It beats Doctor's Wife.
Not really. My number one is in no goddamn way Curse of the Black Spot. I was just trying to think of what is the lamest episode of Doctor Who, Modern Who. Yeah. That's got to be it, right? The Love and Monsters is offensively bad.
Yeah.
Curse of the Black Spot is just lame.
Yeah, Curse of the Black Spot just kind of exists. You're right about that.
No, my number one choice, as Sean noted, it's the one you haven't heard yet. It is Blink from Series 3, the Stephen Moffat episode. And yeah, I get it. Blink is number one all the time.
Yeah.
Classic Who fans love Blink. Modern Who fans love Blink. People who have never watched another episode of Doctor Who love Blink. It's gotten all the awards, it's gotten all the praise and attention, and anytime anything is that just heavily praised, there's bound to be an internal backlash where you have to wonder, is it really as good as that praise? And I wound up sitting down to watch it recently with another couple of episodes. I was trying to figure out where to put it. In an earlier version of this list, Blink was actually considerably lower, like at 6 or 7. And I watched it again, and it's one of those things where you kind of just instinctually know when something is your favorite. Blink is it's my favorite episode of Doctor Who. I love every fucking thing about it. I think it is so amazingly well done. And part of me wants to say, should I really put it at number one? Because it doesn't have a whole lot of the Doctor in it. But I think the way the Doctor is actually used, the 10th Doctor, David Tennant, is so effective. The idea with the videotapes and the videotape conversation is really amazingly realized. But mostly, I just think it's a really, really good story. And at the end of the day, I think one of the things Doctor Who does so well at its best is that Doctor Who is not always about the Doctor. The Doctor's wife is really an exception. That's a story about the Doctor. And that's an exception. Mostly it's the Doctor goes and helps other people and solves other problems. And Blink, he's not in it a whole lot, but it's the same idea, and to me it's the ultimate realization of that idea in Modern Who. So we have this main character in this episode played by Carey Mulligan, the great Carey Mulligan. She's very famous now, not at the time. She plays Sally Sparrow, a character I really love. She's sort of investigating this old house, and in the house are the Weeping Angels, which are a brilliant enemy, kind of played out by now.
Very, very much so by now, I feel.
Well, they had that great follow-up two-parter, and then Angels Take Manhattan was a waste of them.
Yeah.
So, in any case, but they're really well done here. I still find them very frightening, very well utilized. It's a really creative idea. It's a great, I love time travel stories. This is a really good time travel story. Makes really fascinating use of it, but not in a flashy, in-your-face way. in the way Stephen Moffat stories can sometimes be, it's very understated in that the idea... I love the line, the angels, they're nice killers. They just let you go back in time and live to death.
Yeah.
That's a really interesting idea, and it creates some really just dynamite scenes, like when there's the police officer who's hitting on Sally, he disappears, and she immediately goes and meets him as an old dying man who has a very different perspective on life.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of great stuff like that. In just 43 minutes, Stephen Moffat packs in so much great content. Sally Sparrow is so well developed as a character. If Carey Mulligan hadn't gotten famous immediately after this, I would have loved to get the Sally Sparrow spin-off. Would have been better than Torchwood.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah. Just her going around and solving mysteries X-Files style or something. That would have been fun. So, it's just, there's so much great stuff in Blink. I can't even fully describe why I love it so much. I just think it's an absurd amount of fun. It's entertaining. It's not deep in the way some episodes are. Yeah. I almost feel like I have the reaction to it you have to The Invasion.
Yeah, no, I understand that.
Yeah, but it's so smart. It's so well crafted. It was one they did. I feel like Stephen Moffat should set this challenge for himself again because it was specifically written as the low-budget episode of the season. So that's where the Weeping Angels come from.
Yeah.
Because it's really cheap to put a statue there.
Yeah.
And it all works really, really well. I love Blink.
Yeah. Although, heinously, Blink has introduced one of the most
and that's the thing,
toxic elements of modern Doctor Who.
Wibbly wobbly timey wimey.
Yes, fuck. It was a pretty funny line in the episode, but oh my god, fuck that line now.
I know, and
fuck that line, but so much now.
But this is how I feel about Blink: is that it has been played to death, it has been repeated to death, it has been overpraised, not overpraised. I think it's been praised to death.
Yeah.
But when I go back and watch it, I don't think about any of that, and that's why I realized it's my favorite. Is none of that matters when I watch it. I'm in a time capsule. It's like I'm watching it for the first time. No matter how many times I see it, and I've seen this episode a lot.
Yeah.
But when I go back and watch it, the angels still scare me. The time travel stuff still blows my mind. I think it's really creative. The stuff with the DVD and the Easter egg that the Doctor is on, I think that's funny and creative. I think David Tennant is hilarious. There's the great thing at the end where he's like, well, 4 lizards, and there's something like, he's got the line about the lizards. There's all these great asides. All these great asides he makes. And it's just, every part of it works for me, even though, yes, the fans have taken the wibbly wobbly line and done too much with it. Stephen Moffat has taken it and done too much with it.
It's just, Blink is a very good episode. It's one of the best episodes of Modern Who, without a doubt. It's in the top 5. I don't think anybody could make a list of the top 10 Modern Doctor Who episodes and it not be in the top 5 and be able to justify that. But Blink is... It fucked up a lot of stuff about the show to me. It represents a lot of the obsession with very specific elements that I feel is the mimetic nature of it, of just turning this wibbly wobbly thing into this meme, into this disgusting thing that Doctor Who fans, mostly modern Doctor Who fans, will latch onto and just repeat ad nauseum as if it's some sort of justification for the show's existence. It's fuck you people. Just fuck you and fuck everything about you. Blink is a good episode, but goddamn it, Doctor's Wife is better. And goddamn it, Tomb of the Cybermen's a lot better. And goddamn it, there's better shit out there. And fuck wibbly wobbly timey wimey, man.
I still like it, but that's when I watch it here, I still laugh at it, and I think it's good. It's been overdone.
I don't know. The last time I watched Blink, that line, it's not because that line is bad. It's because of what's been done to that line. I can't like that line.
That's
anymore.
Something outside the episode.
Yeah, but it's it's part of my experience in watching the episode now. Like you said, as a time capsule for you, it doesn't have that effect on me.
Okay.
When I watch Blink now, I cannot ignore the annoyance of a lot of that stuff. It's part of watching season 2 episodes with Rose. Rose is already annoying, but the fact of how a lot of modern Doctor Who fans treat Rose in this really just annoying way, it makes it even worse because I cannot ignore that fact. Yeah. It's this is my psyche.
And this is just my personal experience with the show. This is my favorite episode. I you have to go with your gut on this. Top 10 really means favorite 10.
Yeah.
It's very personal. That's my first personal favorite episode. I think overall, though, it was really interesting to me looking at this list. I think there's been a very even spread among the 7 seasons. There have been up seasons, there have been down seasons, but I have something on here from every season except Series 7. And honestly, that is in part because Series 7 is too new. My number 11 honorable mention really honestly might be Rings of Akaten, because I've watched that episode like 2 more times since it aired, and while there are parts that don't work, they are so immensely dwarfed by the parts that do, and how just good that is, that, I seriously considered throwing that in the number 10 slot. And, it may in a later incarnation of this list. I think Modern Who has been really amazingly consistent, even in its inconsistency.
Yeah.
And it's continued to be a great show. It carried the torch of that 50-year legacy really, really well.
Yeah.
So, what else do we want to say?
I don't know.
About episodes, anything else? We talked enough.
There's a lot. If I wanted to talk about Doctor Who, a lot of stuff has gone unspoken.
Here's an interesting tidbit.
Sure.
So we are at 798 episodes right now.
Yeah.
And that means that the 50th will be 799. Matt Smith's final one will be 800. We will end the 50th anniversary year right at 800 episodes.
Nice.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Just a nice continuity to that. Mm-hmm. I like it.
Yeah, and then it's nice that like the new Doctor will step in at 801. That's pretty good.
Yep. All right, so Sean.
Yes.
Lightning round.
Okay.
Best companion.
Fuck you. God, fuck you. There are a lot of...
Do you want me to give you an easier one?
No, here, you give me your favorite companion while I mull this over.
Oh, well,
Let's do it that way.
I don't know.
Come on, fuck you!
Okay,
fuck you, you don't know? We have to pick from 8 people! Fuck you, I've got 30! Holy shit!
Wait a
Jesus.
second. I was wondering, when I said I don't know, I was going to follow that up with, should I count old companions I've seen? Or should I limit it to one?
No, just your favorite companion. Who is it?
It's Amy and Rory, because I feel like I have the greatest connection to them.
Yeah.
I really like Jamie from the Patrick Troughton years.
Jamie's pretty good. Yeah.
There's some good companions. Amy and Rory, definitely no questions asked for my modern.
Yeah, I already knew that, asking you that question. Yeah.
But what's yours? Come on.
It boils down probably, I would say, between Romana and Ace are... if I'm not counting Big Finish, because that's, expanded stuff, that's...
Yeah. No Frobisher.
Yeah, that would... Yeah, Frobisher doesn't count, Evelyn doesn't count, I can't do Charlie Pollard, because they are both... That would make this, really fucking hard. I'm going to say Ace. Even though, it's not like she was around for, the best era of the show. I mean, a really good era, and she's not as iconic as Sarah Jane. Sarah Jane's very good. But Ace is, as a companion, so important to those eras. And as a pair, she, her and the Seventh Doctor, I think, are the best pair. They work off of each other the best in the weirdest way, because Ace is, this weird, sort of, 80s thug, she wears a leather jacket with, all these fucking pins, and she carries around, I forget what the actual chemical compound they have, because they have this running joke of that she knows how to mix basically nitroglycerin or whatever, and she uses it to blow stuff up. And there's just this great running joke about how she never mixes it quite right, and the timing on it is never quite right, so she almost blows up the Doctor several times. But any fucking companion that just can make homemade explosives more or less on the fly, that's pretty awesome.
I think that's a good justification for your
and then
choice.
Also just the way that dynamic works, like I talked about before with the Carmel Master Plan of the Doctor very clearly training her for something, and her having to directly confront things about her past, about her where her parents come from, about her intense fears that she has to confront in Ghostlight, even though Ghostlight's kind of a rough episode, that she develops so strongly, and you get such a powerful connection to her, and she's just such an interesting and fun character to be around, that I would have to say Ace.
Worst companion?
Mel.
Okay.
Yeah, Mel is... You just have to watch Mel for 2 seconds and hear her voice. More specifically, that is all you need to know about how fucking awful companion Mel is.
All right, best enemy.
Like you saying enemy type or specific person.
Well, do you want to split it? Because we could do enemy race or person. Let's do first person, and we'll go to races later.
I mean, if it's just person.
It's Vaughn.
Yeah. Oh God, I wasn't even thinking about, because I was thinking the Master, because I was thinking of recurring villains.
Oh,
if it's Tobias Vaughn versus the Master, ignoring fucking Modern Master, which is bullshit, but it's with Roger Delgado and Anthony Ainley, oh fucking shit, That's a hard fucking choice. Tobias Vaughn or the Master. Oh man. They tie. I can't.
That's fine.
I can't pick.
That's
I
fair.
can't pick Tobias because it's like the Master feels like he gets a lot of weight because he's so important. But Tobias Vaughn's real fucking cool. So I say
awesome.
they tie.
Okay.
I say they tie. What about you? Do you have one?
One off. I mean, I love Tobias Vaughn.
Jeez.
I really love him. I don't feel like they've done one-off villains a whole lot in modern Who.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what I would latch on to. Yeah, I'm going to go with Vaughn because just for the interactions with him and Patrick Troughton,
They're so good.
You can't beat it.
Yeah.
Or fuck it, you know what I'll go with?
What?
I'll go with Scamander from The Enemy of the World, the character played by Patrick Troughton.
Okay.
I have not finished that serial, but just so I
Okay.
can have a unique answer,
Yeah.
Patrick Troughton basically does a like con voice, and it is awesome.
Yeah. Okay. That's good. Yeah.
Okay.
I accept that answer.
Okay.
All right. So now
There's-
alien race.
Best alien. Oh no. Worst one-off villain, and you are allowed to say John Sim Master.
Oh. That's actually because it's hard to remember, the ones from classic Doctor Who because there's got to be some really fucking bad ones. Can I just say the Absorbaloff? Because does he just count? Does that because he's worse than the John Sim Master is bad, but he's the Absorbaloff is the worst. There's nothing. Right? There's nothing even approaches that.
I think it's fair because we do not see multiple of
Yeah,
them
because
aloft,
it's just
so it's
I don't
one.
know if that's its race. I don't know if that's its name. I don't know if that's some sort of racial epithet that the Doctor just gives the Absorbaloff. I have no fucking clue. I like to think it's the last one.
Okay, Absorbaloff. Sounds
Yeah,
good.
it's the Absorbaloff. For you, that's
I was going to go with Alien on Diana Rigg's tit. That's what's going to be mine.
okay. Yeah, okay. That's a very good one too.
Yeah.
Well, I think we'll keep both of those.
Okay. Dame Diana Riggs.
Yeah.
Tit. Let's be classy here.
The alien parasite. Yeah.
Okay. Best alien race. It could be an enemy race. I guess there are friendly races.
Yeah, there's not a lot. The Daleks are obviously really notable, and they are pretty fucking cool. But it really, it's in my mind, it comes down to it's a fight between the Daleks, the Cybermen, but good, not modern Cybermen. Fuck those.
Or in the Neil Gaiman episode.
Yeah. But mostly thinking classic Cybermen,
Right.
And then Sontarans are. I'm pretty fond of the Sontarans.
It's Sontarans for me.
Yeah, I think I would go Cybermen. They have been used poorly in a lot of instances, but when they're used really well, particularly in The Invasion and in Tomb of the Cybermen and something like Earthshock, the Cybermen are just really cool. And I like the way they change so much over the series. And then plus, here, if you especially I'm able to, bring in spare parts, the Big Finish audio drama, the Fifth Doctor one, which is one of the best Doctor Who things out there, which sort of tells the origin story of the Cybermen, then definitely Cybermen, because that is a fucking awesome story.
Sounds good.
All right.
I would answer Sontarans.
Yeah.
I also want to submit, just not that they would win for me, but just for consideration, because I want people to remember them. They were only in one episode, but the Jadoon from Smith & Jones, the Series 3 premiere, one of the best things Russell T Davies ever gave Doctor Who.
Yeah, the Jadoon are pretty fucking...
I want more Jadoon.
Yeah.
they were so great.
They're pretty good.
All right.
You know what? Also, the Zarbi from the Wet Planet, season 2, the first Doctor era, it is the cheesiest goddamn thing. But the Zarbi and the Minok, I believe, are the moth race of people.
Yeah.
They're pretty good. They're not. They don't top Cybermen, but
all right,
they're pretty fucking good.
So worst alien race.
Probably the Zarbi. The Zarbi are pretty fucking good, but literally, the Zarbi are. It's like a big paper mache ant that is hollow. That someone's torso is in, but their human legs and black pants are just sticking out the bottom, and they just run around. That is what the Zarbi are. And then in that episode, you have the Minok, which are these moth people, and the Zarbi are controlled by some sort of evil consciousness or something. It's kind of like a proto version of the Nestine consciousness, and the Minok run around and they go Zarbi, and they kind of herd them. It's fucking dumb.
So they are the best and worst for you.
Yeah, in a lot of ways.
All right.
In a lot of ways.
I'm going to go Slitheen on this one because The thing is, the 3 episodes the Celine are in are good episodes. I like those episodes.
Yeah,
but
with the exception of the Celine themselves.
Which are, they're like farting giant. And what were they thinking? And why do they immediately bring them back for that follow-up episode?
Oh, man.
Which is, again, it's a good episode, but the Celine is, it looks stupid. It's all these fart sounds.
It's just this continuous fart joke. What about... Because this is occurring to me when I was thinking about the races.
Yeah.
What about the adipose from season 4? This is the beginning of season 4, the first episode.
I feel like they're stupid but inoffensive. Yeah. That's kind of my...
They are pretty fucking, like,
they're
walking
stupid,
pieces of, like, fat. It's so dumb.
And it's another case, though, where I like that episode because it's Donna's introduction.
Yeah, that's... When David Tennant and Donna meet.
And they do the miming back and forth.
It's a pretty good scene.
Yes. Man, I also should say, for some of my favorite alien races, I also want to submit the Ood. I'm an Ood fan.
Ood are pretty good.
They've done the good stories with the Ood. The Ood is this, like, enslaved race.
Yeah. I mean, they're kind of based off of the Sensorites, which are from a, like, First Doctor story. That is, the Sensorites is a really good First Doctor story.
Nice. So Sensorites / Ood.
Yeah.
But yes, for worst... I'm going to go Celine. Your adipose are a good choice. Yeah. You know, if there were more...
There's no shortage of selection from Doctor Who, that's for sure.
No, there is not. So, all right. Oh, God, what other...
The plant things from... one of the fucking Trial of the Time Lord episodes has these plant monsters that just look like walking vaginas. Those are pretty good.
All right.
Those are pretty good, too. I don't remember what the fuck they're called because they never come back again, but those are pretty good. It's a terrible episode. It's a Mel episode, too.
All right. Favorite TARDIS design?
Oh, shit! I didn't even expect this question. Fucking, I would probably go for like the basic like 3rd Doctor, 4th Doctor era like classic TARDIS, but the 7th Doctor like the movie TARDIS is also really fucking cool. Like that's
I like it.
But I'm going to go with the classic TARDIS. Okay, that's just like when you say TARDIS, like console, like that's what I think of as I see that.
Pretty much here too. I would go either 3rd or 4th or the current one they're in.
Yeah, the current one's pretty fucking cool.
It's the best, certainly the best modern contemporary version you could ask for, I think.
Yeah, I mean, like I feel like each time they've iterated on the modern TARDIS, they've gotten better.
I love the original Matt Smith one with all the oranges and stuff. It's great. The one with David Tennant and Christopher Eccleston was weird and not great.
Like
not horrible, but
like that one.
Yeah.
It's all like really dark and like
it's a weird thing where it worked like the first time you see it, and then you realize why is the Doctor living in a weird dungeon?
Yeah, exactly. Like why did he pick this design?
I know Christopher Eccleston was in a dark place, but
come on, man. Yeah.
All right. So favorite TARDIS design. God, I had some others. Favorite Doctor costume.
Oh, favorite Doctor costume. The 10th Doctor's. That's not that hard for me. Yeah, that fucking coat. Pretty fucking cool.
It's pretty cool.
That's why in Assassin's Creed 4 I found a long brown coat. I was like, yeah.
Well, and you know what? He wears those blue Converses.
Yeah.
I bought blue Converse All-Stars in high school so I could wear those, and I still have them, and I'm going to wear them to the Day of the Doctor premiere on Monday night.
Nice.
Because that's just going to work. I can't wear them all the time because I have a leg injury, and those are terrible shoes if you have bad legs because they have no support.
Yeah.
The Doctor would not be able to do those kind of physical running and stuff in those, but they're cool.
Yeah. But it's like, but honorable mention obviously goes to the 4th Doctor's costume, which is the second best. That's really fucking cool, but 10th Doctor's costume is pretty awesome, I think. Because I like that the 10th Doctor's costume looks like something a normal person would wear. It's just really cool looking. Whereas like the 4th Doctor's the scarf is fucking awesome, but nobody would ever dress like that.
Right.
It's a little bit too costumey for me to make it my favorite.
Well, okay, what would I go with then? Man, I like Matt Smith's costume. I certainly like the current one he's wearing even more.
Yeah.
But, if I'm just going to go with my gut, 7th or 9th Doctor. I like the 7th because it's silly and awesome, and Sylvester McCoy owns it. And I like the 9th because it's badass and just pared down in a way
simple.
that... There's leather jacket. Yeah. I've always wanted to wear a leather jacket. They're significantly more expensive than Converses, so I've never owned one.
I'm surprised you didn't say John Pertwee. I thought you were going to. John Pertwee.
I love John Pertwee's costume.
Like velvet smoking jackets are pretty fucking good.
I love it. And obviously John Pertwee is one of my just very favorite Doctors. But I don't know. There's something about I want to say John Pertwee, but then I see the question mark sweater, and it's like
and the fucking question mark umbrella. Don't forget about that.
Yeah. Like, they should be giving those out at screenings of Day of the Doctor, right?
Yeah. I think they should be giving that out at screenings of The Hobbit.
maybe Sylvester McCoy will use that at some point.
I certainly hope so.
Yes. All right. What other lightning round questions do you have?
I don't know. I didn't fucking come you're the one who was coming up with questions.
We already kind of mentioned this, but favorite version of the theme song?
It's the John Nathan Turner, like 5th Doctor, 6th Doctor era one.
Yeah,
it out. Yeah,
that's mine too. And on par with that, favorite theme song animation
is the 7th Doctor's.
Yeah, winking.
Yeah, the winking face. Yeah, there's no.
Because you've got that great theme, you've got that version of the theme, but you've also got...
It's slightly different. It's not quite as good as the 5th and 6th, but it is a good version of the theme.
It's good, and you've got Sylvester McCoy winking at you.
And that really great, like, late 80s, really shitty CGI TARDIS that sort of floats around in it. It's pretty good.
It's pretty good.
Yeah. Yeah, the 8th Doctor's opening is pretty fucking... That's the special one. Or the 7th Doctor's one, yeah.
Number one thing you want to see out of the 50th anniversary special today?
Paul McGann. Like, he's not probably going to really be there, but that would be... It's, I've not made it secret how much I think it would be really fucking awesome that you would have the 8th Doctor be the War Doctor or whatever, and, like, that be the transition. Like this, like, whatever they're doing might still be good. I'm going to go in with an open mind, but the 8th Doctor stuff would have been good. Like, I fucking know
but we know they're not going to do that now.
Yeah, I know they're not going to, but I don't fucking care.
Okay.
This is what I want. And then they fucking, tease it with the fucking Night of the Doctor thing, which I've watched like 8 times now. It's like, god damn it. Like, he's so fucking good. He's so good. I just feel so bad inside this. Like, he should just fucking... He should be able to shine, He's so fucking good, Paul McGann. God damn it! I just want him to be there.
It's okay. I honestly, my initial answer would be like, good interplay between Matt Smith and David Tennant. But fuck it, if there are surprise doctors we have not been told about in this special, that would be my number one thing. If we get to the end and they're all there or something, that'd be pretty cool.
Yeah.
I feel like we know at least Peter Davison and Sylvester McCoy are always up for a cameo.
Yeah.
Assuming Sylvester McCoy had a break from The Hobbit.
Yeah.
It wasn't in New Zealand all the time. Or they could do the thing where he appears on the TV console, like for William Hartnell.
Yeah, exactly. It's not like they've come up with really cheesy workarounds to call something the 3 Doctors or the 5 Doctors before.
Yes. All right. So, any other lightning rounds you want to go through, or are we good?
Favorite sonic screwdriver? This is a short selection for you, but...
Yeah, 11th Doctors.
It's pretty good.
I mean, at least among the modern ones, because I think there's a functionality to it, and I like that he opens it up and then reads it. It doesn't make any more sense, but...
there's nothing... It's total fucking bullshit.
It's total bullshit, but it's slightly more contextualized bullshit.
Yeah.
Slightly. What about for you?
No, that would go with the original Pinlight sonic screwdriver that is literally just a screwdriver, because I like the idea that there's absolutely no reason why you would need to have a screwdriver that operates off of sound waves, Like, a screwdriver works perfectly fucking fine. There's no reason to do that. But, goddamn, the Doctor has one, so fuck it. And he just uses it to unscrew things.
Alright. What else? Anything?
Trying to think if there's any other... So we did favorite companions and enemies and shit. Do you have, any favorite line or something that sticks out?
I feel like for the modern series, I kind of... If you go to my piece where I wrote up on the top 10 episodes, I have a quote for each episode. But, I mean, the one I quoted for The Big Bang, I think, is one of the better pieces of writing for Modern Who. But... And I told you the Joe Grant joke I love, so I feel like I've answered that. Yeah. What about you? And you talked about the speech that the second Doctor gives.
That's pretty good. There's a specific line, I want to say it's from the Sunmakers that the 4th Doctor gives. I'm having a real hard time remembering what it is. Let's see. It's something about, there are 2 kinds of people in this world.
Yeah.
I don't know. The fucking Tomb of the Cybermen line is really good. And there's also another really good one is when the 3rd Doctor regenerates, he has this line where cause Sarah Jane starts to cry and he just looks up at her and kind of grabs her cheek and says, "Tears, Sarah Jane?" That's a good goddamn moment. That might actually take it. There's nothing, there's not a lot to that line, but the way it's delivered and the scene is so fucking good.
Nice.
I'd probably say just "Tears, Sarah Jane."
Oh, okay. Let's go on the flip side.
Oh, there's also like Remember Me, Sarah Jane, with like the last time the Fourth Doctor when Sarah Jane leaves the TARDIS. That's a fucking good scene too.
Nice.
Good line.
Well, what about just funniest scene? If you wanted to do that,
The funniest scene.
That might be too hard to answer.
Yeah,
I'm
like
sorry.
with like off the top of my head, the funniest Doctor Who scene.
Slitheen farting
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, that's definitely
up there.
near the top of the list.
Yes.
I don't know. I feel like half the lines in the Christmas Carol one are so fucking funny.
It's a funny episode.
Yeah. That might just kind of be my answer. Is half of the Christmas Carol when it decides to be funny is real fucking funny.
I would also submit, just for overall comedic value, the Lodger or Closing Time.
That's true.
These are good ones.
Those are pretty funny episodes.
Yeah. All right. So I think that's it for the lightning round.
Yeah.
We've got enough here.
Yeah.
Okay. So, Sean, what are your last words you want to do to Doctor Who here on its 50th birthday, your 21st birthday? Any closing words?
Happy birthday, motherfucker! It's been a long haul, and even though Paul McGann's probably not going to be the 50th anniversary at any significant capacity if he is in there, it's okay, I guess. And fuck it, man. It's Doctor Who is life. It's just because it's the 50th anniversary doesn't mean it's the last. Like, we keep on going, and just because the Matt Smith's end is on the horizon, but a whole new beginning is coming up too. So
It's going to be exciting.
yeah, happy motherfucking birthday, goddammit.
Happy birthday, Doctor Who. I'm psyched to watch the 50th special. Feels like we're leading up to something big, like the Doctor Who movie.
Yeah,
They've hyped it
it's
well.
more or less literally a Doctor Who movie. So
Yeah, it's going to be in theaters. So, pretty cool.
yeah, that's more than what the last Doctor Who movie got. So
Yes. All right. So, Sean, happy
Yeah.
birthday. Doctor
thank
Who, happy birthday. We'll be back hopefully soon to talk about the 50th special. If we're not, don't worry. We'll talk about it sometime. We will have things to say.
yeah, nothing would stop us from doing that. So
Yes. So, Doctor Who, yay.
yes, I think sure, yay. That maybe it's not quite as enthusiastic because I feel about Doctor Who.
Well, what would you say to end this podcast? Last words. What do you want them to
Okay.
be?
Who ham